that they claim to be. I don't believe a damn thing that the politicians say. I don't even listen to them. Well, like
Okay.
for instance, when the COVID stuff started happening, they're like, we're going to do this because of this, and then I looked at what was actually happening: more top-down control, less freedom of movement, less economic prosperity overall. So that was the end goal. It has nothing to do with health.
All right. So, all right, let's have this conversation now that we're fucking
All right,
live.
man.
All right. So, all right. The problem is that like what you have at the moment is what's known as a liberal democracy. All right. And a liberal democracy is very, very good at taking you and like weaponizing you against your neighbor, right? Like you blame like the plumber down the street, you know what I'm saying, because he voted for Trump. And the plumber blames, you know what I'm saying, the fucking single female across the road because of the fact that she voted for Hillary, right? And like instead of like standing here looking at your government and going like, yo, your government is fucking terrible as a whole, just in general, like this is what democracy does. It weaponizes like one part of the fucking people versus another instead of actually holding anybody accountable. Right. And this is where like the neo-reactionary ideology comes in. What neo-reactionary shit's really about is making individuals responsible and accountable for their fucking actions inside of fucking government.
Well,
Right.
I can completely get behind the idea of personal responsibility. That's why we have all this control. Individuals where we're told, hey, just give up your autonomy and then you're responsible for nothing. But with freedom comes responsibility. Like I've lived my entire life without healthcare coverage, but because of that, I live an insanely healthy life. I can't afford to fuck up my shoulder. I don't eat McDonald's. I live a very strict, healthful life because I have the freedom to spend all my money how I want. But with that comes the responsibility to care for myself. So I'm
You know,
completely
I
behind
feel where you are. I
the
feel where
idea
you
of
are. So
personal
okay.
responsibility.
All
But
right.
I
So
a better way to say is that the democracy turns idiots against other idiots. Like there
well,
are other people like me who don't buy into it.
I
I'm
feel
not the
you,
only
right?
one.
But like again, like the issue is that what individuals really want is a in general rule for everybody, right? That's kind of like the basics of neo-reactionism. It's like where you go, all right, we want rules for everybody, not just us, not just like you know what I'm saying, motherfucking the police or whatever, but for the politicians and for the government actors, right? We want them to be responsible
Hmm.
for their own fucking actions, and we want solid, normal fucking rules that go the whole way through and everybody has to listen to them. That's kind of the mentality, right? And that way, it's kind of like on this Hans Hermann Hoppe type of mentality, right? Where if you look at like the best way to have like libertarianism the whole way through is to have a king, right? Because like you're the king's responsible to the fucking nation, and he makes sure that everybody acts accordingly to how the hell they're supposed to fucking act. And that's where like the idea of this neo-reactionary fucking monarch fucking ideology is coming from, right? I don't agree with the ideology of a king or a CEO for the country as a whole, right? But I do think, you know what I'm saying, that it's something that, you know what I mean, like is something we should discuss as a whole, right? It's something that we should have a conversation about.
I definitely think it warrants a discussion for sure.
Right. I mean, because like, all right, so basically, if you read back the history of like where liberalism came from, right, and what liberalism really is, what it is it's a governance of the merchant class, right? And in being a governance of the merchant class, basically what it says is that you have you have the individuals who are doing business are the individuals who make rules, right?
Well,
And
that's because we live in an economic system. Those who have the money have the power.
no,
There's no other
no,
way but for
no,
them to
no,
make the
no,
rules.
no, no. The entire ideology of a state comes from the fucking 17th century. That's all the further it goes back. Like when they say Greek city states and they say like Roman Empire states and all these type of things, none of these were actually states in the way we think of them today, right? Like the state, the whole idea of a state comes from the fucking words of like it comes from Italian motherfucking city state nobles saying the state of my economy, right? And so, with this mentality being held, right, you have to sit here and understand that, like, the entirety of our government and our whole system is set up, right? That, I mean, like what they're looking at is they're running things from a term of looking at the state as a total state, right? Instead of looking at it the way a king used to look at it and say like the 12th or 13th century, where he ran what was inside of his walls. Outside of that, you were a free man and you were responsible for yourself and you did as you saw fit. Right? Like, yo, you could never stand here and like stop somebody from invading some town that was 70 or 80 miles away from a king's motherfucking like fucking king's fucking castle and shit, because it would take too long for him to be able to stand here and actually like fucking move troops over there at that point, right?
Could
Like by
I
the
could I
time,
just say that's more of a logistical problem than a philosophical or political one? A king would
well,
defend any part of his kingdom that he's capable of, but
oh,
that's a
yes,
logistical problem. That's just the fundamental nature of warfare.
right. So with that mentality, right, being had as a whole, right, with that ideology in general being understood, I mean, the entire ideology of a state did not exist until like London, Britain, fucking Paris. I mean, these big maritime motherfucking like powers became a fucking thing, right? And so the entire ideology that we have today, like the reason why like the kings got shut down is because of the fact that the aristocrats who were the merchant class, the individuals who did trade, the individuals who had factories, the individuals who were industrialists, actually pushed them out of power and put in a system that was much more friendly to being able to do business, right? And so with this being said, you have to understand that liberalism is, you know what I'm saying, a fucking ideology of motherfucking the merchant class, right? It is a merchant ideology, right? And this ideology is cool up to a certain point, right? Where you get down to this level where you go, all right, you can't have um what's that shit called, man? You can't have like private sector solutions for, I mean, like basic things like, fucking families mattering and, I mean, like people mattering. And eventually it leads you down to the point of where you're going to promote individuals who spend the most money into the economy. For instance, single fucking females spend 40% more on consumer goods than entire families do when they're making the same money.
Oh yeah.
Right. So this is the problem that we're running into. They're going to promote what stands here and actually helps the economy and not what helps the people as a whole. And this is where neo-reactionism comes in. They go, man, listen, like, what about communities? And most neo-reactionists are fucking religious individuals. Like they're all like Catholics and, I mean, fucking, I mean, Christians and shit. And so they believe that the community and the idea of a family and the idea of a positive life within such boundaries is better than what we have right now, which I personally believe as well. You know what I'm saying?
I absolutely believe in that. I have a theory as to what the destruction of the community or one of the things that catalyzed that. I believe it's the radicalization of typical human interactions. 200 years ago, if you had a dispute with your neighbor, either one of two things would happen. Either you'd go out in your front lawns and you'd attack each other and one of you would die, or you would settle it like men. Like you would talk over your problems. Today, if you have a problem, you simply file a police report. You have removed the quintessential, idea of human interaction from human life, and you've simply involved the state in everything. Like I don't think that the destruction of the community, I don't think that that is merely and completely a result of the system that we have. I believe that this is I think it's kind of by design, honestly. Like that's why we have so much division. Like this it's the whole divide and conquer thing. That's why our country is balkanizing and politicizing and polarizing so much. Like even like any political movement has like 37 factions in it, and they're all like, even the truth movement. You got the flat earthers, you got the people on the electric universe theory, and then you got the Alex Jones crowd, and all these people have fundamentally different ideas as to how the world should be run. It's an information overload type scenario.
What'd you say, man? Yo.
Hey, what's up?
Sorry, man, my internet dropped out. What would you say?
Oh, I said my theory as to what led to the destruction of community. To say that this is some fundamental failing of our system, that I believe that kind of ignores like one like big factor. You have the radicalization of all human interaction. Like a long time ago, if you had a dispute with your neighbor, you would either fight to the death or you would decide to talk it out and find a rational solution. Like in the Middle East, you have small towns where they have councils when there's and it's a council of elders, every all the oldest men of every family. Like it doesn't matter whether you're a landowner or not, they all meet and they hash out differences and they try and solve it in a somewhat political but also a somewhat communal way. Today, if your neighbor's stereo is up too loud, do you go and talk to him? No, no, I'm afraid of him. He might hurt me. He might have a gun. You call the police. The police solve everything. It always ends in this radicalized nature that involves the state in everything, and that completely like that's you can see the same thing in the destruction of the black family. Do you involve the state too much? You basically remove the need and the desire for community.
Well, the reason this happens, you know what I'm saying, in general, is because of the fact that like you don't have a culture, right? Like we as you know what I'm saying, like Americans in general don't have any culture. And the reason for that is again because with the ideology of infinite growth that has come out of, you know what I'm saying, the 18th century, what they did was is they sat here and they they fucking they put all their nuts in the basket of like, so we can just continue to grow and have like better lives and better technology and better shit and a growing fucking GDP and economy forever, right? Just in fucking perpetuity. And with that being said, you can sit here and just kind of push all of our social shit to the background, and people are willing to motherfucking stand here and make that trade, right? Because of the fact that, like, exponentially, you're always going to do better. Problem is that's over now. This is the end of that, right? And so now we're going to have a shrinking population, right? And when you have a shrinking population, that means that you have less individuals to give loans to, less individuals to make investments, less people to put money into the box, less consumers to buy shit. So people are looking and going like, this trade is no longer worth it for me. It's just like, it's not as a whole. And the reason, all right, let me put it this, let me say this as well. Again, we got to get back to the merchant class. And I mean, like, they want to be able to do business wherever they go and have it be the same everywhere they go. They like, yo, me and you, we talk on a regular basis about food, right? You know what I'm saying? We talk about
Yeah.
like where our food comes from. Like my food's always local, your food's always local. You know what I'm saying? Like we eat as well as possible. And
Oh yes,
they
absolutely.
don't want that. They want you to buy fucking Oscar Mayer products. They want you to buy Nestle products. They want you to buy these giant fucking brands because, like, yo, that's what's good for the fucking economy as a whole in this country. And that's the mentality. You know what I'm saying?
I agree that they don't want local food production, but I feel we might be missing a critical piece. And I'm not going to put too fine a point on it because I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm simply saying we have a revolving door policy between big business and government. CEOs regularly become senators and governors and vice versa. And the government has an infinite money machine. Like they've made it blatantly clear. They printed trillions this year, a lot more than actually a few orders of magnitude more than they've collected in taxes. And if both of these entities have been run by the same people for as long as we like, but for the length of both of our lives and longer, is it possible that that this has all been a vie for control, and they've just been using, you know, like some kind of like profit motive to justify it? Like centralizing the food grid, it has a good economic it has some good economic benefits, but it also makes us all dependent on the state. Money and power are interchangeable, in my opinion.
Mm. Well, money, and power are sort of kind of interchangeable, but it's not the same point, right? So, like,
No.
if you're the bureaucrat making rules, you know what I'm saying, and like you're not making shit for money, you know what I mean? Like you have power, but you don't have motherfucking money, and that's a lot of our government as well. And our government is very, very lackadaisical. Like it has so many programs that like overlap other fucking programs, and you know, I mean, like so many sets of I'm trying to think here. Like just like what's the word I'm looking for here? Where like you have like extra shit, you know what I mean? Like you have redundancies. They have so many redundancies inside of it that you know, what I mean, individuals aren't responsible for what it is that they do, right, day to day. And so like everybody has the attitude of I'm gonna do my 20 years, collect my pension, and go the fuck home, right? That's the mentality of most federal bureaucrats and shit. So understand something, like a lot of this, and I mean legitimately, is just them being fucking lazy as a whole. It's incompetence. It's not malevolence. And their open door policy between the FDA and you know what I'm saying, fucking the like fucking big business and shit, you have to understand that. So after FDR, we had what was known as a scientific government. That's what like they actually called it when they built this shit up. So basically, what the premise is that they sat here and they took the government and they said, look, we're not going to have a government of the people anymore. We're going to have a government of science. We're going to do this scientifically. And they invited fucking college into motherfucking into the actual government itself. They basically just hired on straight professors and shit. And now, when you start talking about guys interchanging from like the FDA to Purdue to, you know what I mean, fucking ConAgra or fucking Monsanto's, whatever it is, right? What you're looking at are individuals who are literally trained in colleges to go back and forth in both of these jobs, right? They're trained to be regulators and motherfucking like business people who are running the fucking companies because they're both the same goddamn position, right? So like, yo, they go, all right, who's the best individual to run this? Well, somebody that actually knows what they're doing, somebody who's actually done it before. Oh, let's hire the guy from the fucking business himself to actually run it. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where this mentality gets down to. Again, it's incompetence and an over reliance on our ideology of a fucking scientific government and shit.
See, I have a see you've been in government buildings before, right? I'm assuming you've been to court, right?
Yeah, a
Now,
lot.
you might be in a county where the school is falling apart, the roads look like shit, the like the vehicles that fix the roads all look like shit. Have you ever been in a courtroom that was falling apart? Have you like I've been in quite a few courtrooms in some very poor counties. They're always gleaming. Like to
Nah,
say that they're to
I've
say
been to
that they're
shitty
broke,
courts.
I
I've
think
been to
there's
shitty
very
courts.
little money left to do what they claim their responsibilities are, but the
Nah,
money's
nah,
going somewhere.
nah. I've been to shitty courts and shit. I've been to shitty like fucking, you know what I mean, government buildings and whatnot. Like, believe me, it's not all fucking gleaming. Like, yeah, a lot of times the county courthouse or the state courthouse or the federal courthouse will be upkept like 100%, right? But like, and I understand that like, you go to schools are falling down, blah blah blah. Again, you know what I mean. You
Well,
have to remember, like, so when we start talking about like inflation, right? For you know, what I
mhm.
mean, food and fucking products, whatever it is, right? And a bunch of it you can write off to like transportation disruptions. You have the same thing when it comes down to the ideology of like schools not spending the money on what they should. A lot of that again is like the fucking teachers' pensions and shit, right? It's the fact that literally like these fucking school districts are bankrupt because they're trying to pay these fucking pensions to these teachers and they flat can't fucking afford them. So instead of putting money into schools and into the kids and blah blah blah, they're putting the money in to motherfucking, you know what I'm saying? Oh wait, it was, yeah, man, listen, Winston Smith, we are most definitely going to go over there, my brother. I'm gonna check that out later, right? But like we are most definitely going to go in and like have or I'm sorry, man. Listen. Anyway, fuck it. So like you have to understand that like the teachers' pensions are like what's bankrupting the fucking school system as a whole. It's not the fact that like they're just going, oh, we're not going to spend the money on motherfucking school and blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
I mean, how much money do teachers make? Like that seems like is it possible that that's a red herring? Like how how much money does the average teacher make? They don't
65 to $70,000 a year.
that's not unreasonable to be honest.
I know
Like
it's not on either side. Like it's not low and it's not fucking like a lot. You know what I mean? But the problem is like when you're making 65,000, you know what I mean, or even 80,000 in a place like New York or San Francisco, you can't afford to live in the city, right? But that's just
No.
because of the cost of the fucking city and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that meant like this mentality, like all of this shit, as far as it's concerned, is all just like everything's fucking retarded at this point. Like they broke the system through incompetence. And you know what I mean, you're watching like what happens when they don't know what the fuck to do because they've run this motherfucker off of, you know what I mean, hope and fucking duct tape for the past 50 fucking years and shit. You know what I mean?
See, I wouldn't call my, I'm not an economics major, but I've been very interested in economics for a long time, and the idea that like these are the governments of the world have been using the excuse of we're sorry, we fucked it up, forgive us, we're just stupid. They've been using the excuse of incompetence to justify why they've been fucking up everything, literally bending over the human race and butt fucking it to death. At this point, I find it hard to believe that anyone could be that stupid.
Well,
Like
think
that
about it
that
like
seems like an
this.
excuse to
Think
me.
about it. Think about it like this. So, like, if you were how do I put this? If you were, you know what I'm saying, a government person, right? If you were in
Mhm.
charge of like the government back in the 70s, and you were watching, you know what I'm saying, like your fucking businesses stand here and struggle to be able to pay like the pensions and hold the pensions that they had for, you know what I mean, like these people, the employees that work for them, right? And you wanted to stand here and have a pension system in general, right? And you said, well, okay, you know what I mean, like, yo, we need businesses that are going to be able to, you know what I mean, be competitive on a global stage, right? Because so, and there's so many factors. This is a macro problem, right? For instance, like, you know, like we're fighting the USSR through trade, right? And so therefore what we have to do is, you know, I mean, still have businesses at home, but allow other companies, other countries to manufacture goods and sell them in the United States so that like they'll take that bribe to be able to fight against the USSR for us, right? And so the American consumer base needs to have jobs to be able to pay for, you know, I mean, these type of goods. And we look and we go, all right, well, you know, our companies can no longer hold these fucking pensions. You know, GE literally, you know what I'm saying, has declared bankruptcy like 6 times because of pensions and shit. Fucking Bethlehem Steel went out of business because of fucking pensions and shit. Right. And like, yo, all these companies are sitting here looking at this shit and going, man, listen, or the government's looking at this going like, all right, well, we'll create a tax-free way for you to be able to save for your retirement and put in this thing called a 401k, right? And we will rely on Wall Street to fucking stand here and be able to.
You still there? You cut out for a second. I don't know. I have a fundamental issue with the idea of trusting anyone to handle my money, but me. Okay, so I'm assuming that you can't hear me, but other. Oh shit! Son of a bitch. Uh, yeah, 11:40. Well, what in the fuck, dude? Uh, don't tell me we're gonna have to start this over. God damn it. Oh no, I hope they didn't get Tom. See, I have an issue with the idea of like believing that things are the way that they seem, like the subject of competition between countries. And I believe that the USSR, like that country was never in the black. It was in the red from the beginning, since the start of the Cold War, since the start of the Communist Revolution. They've been using far more money than they've been making. And I believe that the USSR was kept propped up by wealthy government interests since the beginning. So the idea that anything has to do with competition between countries,
Fucking
I
piece of,
don't.
God
Are
damn
you
it,
there?
man. Listen, internet is fucking trash tonight. Like
Oh,
every time
it's
I
cool.
try to
I
rely on it,
assumed
like
that
it has
happened.
been
Everyone's
good.
like, "Oh no, the CIA got Tom."
Yeah, yeah, like I
It's
got
nice
you.
to
Like,
know
yo,
the globe
like it
people
was
didn't
like
get you.
it's been good for like the past week. Like I've had no drops, and then today it just started dropping all over the place. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I think it's because it got cold. I have no idea. But anyway, right. So like here's the mentality. So if you're a government individual, right, and you're like running the economic planning section of motherfucking the government or whatever, and like you see that your companies are not able to compete because of the fact that they have all this pension load on them, right? And you want to go, all right, well, we need people to be able to retire, but in the same point, we, what I'm saying, can't carry it as a tax burden on the government because we can't raise the government motherfucking debt that high. And then on top of that, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, we need to have like some type of solution. We create a 401k, which is a tax-free way for individuals to be able to stand here and save their money. And what we see is that like, yo, the market's going to grow no matter what because of the fact that like we have an exponential fucking amount of people being born on a regular basis. So, I mean, they had no idea that like the population was going to shrink, right? They had no clue that this was going to end up being a fucking Ponzi scheme because like, they weren't able to chart this out for the next, 50 years or whatever it is, right? So they sat here and, pushed everybody into these 401ks, which became motherfucking Ponzi schemes long motherfucking term. Right. And then, come 2008, 2009, the boomers start retiring and they notice that, like, all of a sudden, like, there's bubbles all over the fucking market from all this liquidity that the baby boomers have pumped in at $70 trillion in fucking 401k money, just all over the fucking place. And so when they're sitting here looking at this, they're going, oh my God, like we don't know what we're going to fucking do. And as these bubbles start popping, the only thing that they can do is just print more fucking money. And as baby boomers enter mass retirement, their best fucking solution is just to print money and throw it at it. But the issue is it's causing inflation.
Right, because they're all just trying to get to Friday. Like, I don't care if it collapses. I don't care if my great 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 grandchildren are still paying off the debt that I incurred, provided I can still retire in peace. That's all many people care about.
And that's the mentality, right? So like understand it's not malevolence, it's just incompetence as a whole.
Well, okay, so I have a question. Like, what would you attribute the sharp decline in fertility and human reproduction in the Western world to? Would you say that people
Cities,
just one day woke up and said, "I no longer want a family. I no longer want children"? Like, there were a lot of things
cities,
that preceded this.
cities.
Cities?
It's the urbanization rate, right? Like we actually charted this out one time, right? So all the places that have like the lowest birth rates in the world, for instance, Taiwan, Singapore, fucking South Korea, Japan, right? These are the places that are the most urbanized out of everywhere. China, like has a massive problem. Why? Not because of the fact that like they have a one child policy. They have a problem of where like they shoved all their fucking entire population into these fucking cities. And so, like it is what it is. Then you combine that with feminism,
Well,
right?
I agree that feminism is part of the problem, but there's a difference between a correlative effect and a causal effect. You can chart ice cream sales on the same graph as shark attacks. And any reasonable person would look at those graphs and say, "Oh my God, ice cream causes shark attacks. We need to get rid of the ice cream." There's a lot, like for instance, you spoke about, like, my issue is not necessarily with the fragility of the food distribution network that we have right now. I don't really care how fragile it is. Like, if I could eat cheap food from the dollar store and still be healthy, I would keep doing it until the food grid inevitably collapses, and then I would just use my backup plan. But there are many things that preceded this sharp drop in fertility. You have every kind of anti-family, anti-male, anti-child policy known to man happening. You've got massive, like, ridiculous vaccine quotas that are put into place. You've got people being pumped full of garbage that they put in our water. Like, the food that most people eat is garbage. The sperm count has dropped by about 50% in less than 20 years. Like, that is not, like, that is being caused by something. Like, your sperm count doesn't just drop because your father had less children. Something
Well,
is.
again, yo, we're talking about macro problems, right? And this is the issue when we start talking about macro problems. So, like, when you address like these issues, all right, so the sperm count dropping is not an issue of, you know what I mean, like the urbanization, right? But like the
Well, in
sperm
a way,
count,
it might be, or urbanization is
but
often like cities have always been unhealthy places. Unhealthy people have difficulty reproducing. So it's all a giant interwoven matrix.
right. I
Urbanization
mean,
does
but like
not
so
directly
like
cause
here's the
sperm
thing
count
though.
drop.
Here's the thing though. Sperm count dropping is not correlative with the fucking drop of, you know what I'm saying, birth numbers and shit, right? That's kind of the issue, right? As a whole. So like, you know what I mean, like the sperm count has dropped less than the amount of motherfuckers that we have not made. And the thing is if you go back through history, like, and this is where like, you know, you have to do the reading. Like it's important that you do the reading. Every civilization since the beginning of mankind has had this same exact problem. All of them. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about fucking Samaria, Babylon, Persia, Egypt, Rome, fucking Great Britain, France. Pick a fucking civilization. They all had the same fucking problem. The moment you loaded everybody in the cities, the birth rate dropped to nothing. Happened over and over and over again. And people think it's because of things like fucking feminism, and it's not. It's
Have
literally
you heard of
because
the
like,
mouse utopia experiment?
well, it's not that. It's not that. It's not this. All right. So like, here's the thing. All right.
Well, okay.
When you have kids and you live in a country on a farm, right? You got to produce your own
Mhm.
food. What are your kids? What are they to you?
They are free labor, and they are like in the end, most people think, no, I just want kids to carry on my name. No, like you need more hands to help. But in a city, kids are a liability. So if you live
City
outside a
in the
city,
city.
you want more kids. And if you live in a city, you want less kids. Everything's more expensive. There's less space. And also
Yeah.
you have a very anti-family, like unsafe environment in cities.
Yes.
Like
So
it's a
like cities,
multi-pronged
having
issue for
children in
sure.
a city is like having motherfucking Saint Bernards in a city,
Oh yeah,
right?
God. Fucking God.
You know, like that's kind of all right. So again, this has happened throughout the history of human civilization. This is not a new problem, but we don't want to address that because cities are the only way for them to be able to distribute fucking food to us in a
Well,
fucking in
cities
a
are total consumer areas. They produce economics. That's just because we've manipulated the system to make money out of nothing. Like cities only import food.
It's centrally locating your industry and your population allows you to distribute fucking food and resources.
Well, I believe they centralized the distribution hubs, but it doesn't necessarily. So I agree with you that cities are the problem. We might have a slight disagreement on exactly why they're the problem, but I agree with you. Like cities are an issue. Like, do you
Well, no,
remember
no,
it
no. I
was?
mean,
It
we're
must have
not
been a year
disagreeing
ago
on
now when
why
we.
cities. We're not disagreeing on why cities are a problem, right? What we're
Right.
disagreeing on is like, you know what I'm saying, like the purpose of a city, like the reasons why they want cities, right? Is because of the fact that like literally, like without cities, you cannot have the population that you have right now. All right, and then you add in like today the bug men, right? You know what I'm saying? Like fucking the bug men are a fucking issue and have been an issue since probably the 1970s or 80s, right? And the bug men are these individuals who all work under fluorescent lights their entire motherfucking lives and shit. They went to college and they sit behind a fucking computer or at a desk and they literally just do paperwork for a living their whole lives. And they don't want the responsibility of ever having to do anything other than go to work, come home, and you know what I'm saying, like dream about fucking going to space and playing D&D. You know what I mean? That's all these fucking bug men want to do. You know what I mean?
Well, I felt for a lark. I looked up Bugman in Urban Dictionary. It says ruthless, lifeless metropolitan drones who have a permanent 1,000-yard stare due to an exit or existence void of any other meaning other than waiting for the next iPhone.
Yep.
Well, so what do you think? Because this, we seem to have a large problem with nihilism. There are a lot of things that culminated and preceded this enormous drop in not necessarily fertility. That seems to be a later issue, but that might just be the second boot that stomps on the cockroach that was already half dead. But there are a lot of things that preceded this, the sharp decline in people's reproduction. Like you have the introduction of gigantic cities. You have the Food Network going to shit. Like, good luck going to the supermarket and finding good food unless you're like a label master. There's things in there that are toxic that you can't even pronounce. And you have the death of religion. You have the destruction of family, which has been exacerbated by every anti-family law, and feminism is part of that. So there are a lot of things. But I do agree that cities seem to be an issue. But is there a way to get, well, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but is there a way to get rid of cities without killing everyone in them? Not that that would be a bad thing, honestly.
Well, here's what you have to do. First off, like you have to like end the city's ability to fucking like be part of everybody else's voting pattern. Right. And you know, I mean, like this again, like when you get down to like the NRX and neo-reactionary movement and shit, there's a lot of us, right? And I mean, we all have our own mentality about what we want to do, right? But a lot of the core basic premises is that you cannot have fucking cities ruling over everybody the fuck else, right? It just does not work. And it doesn't, like, it's not healthy for your civilization. It's not healthy for your nation. It's not healthy for your state. It's not healthy for the community. It's not healthy for families. You know, I mean, you can't have people who have no families ruling over people who have families. Like, it just doesn't fucking work. You know, I mean, just as an in general thing. Ad hoc, what up, my brother? How you doing, man?
Oh, hey, sorry, I was on mute there for a minute. Yeah, I just got off a 10-hour shift of helping people with their network issues.
So have you heard? When I was young, when I was in school, I had a teacher, and I considered him to be a very wise man up until about like 3 months into the semester, and he kept playing like all these fucking videos, and it would always be some like heavy science shit, and I'd be like, when he first started teaching us, he's like, there are two sides to every argument, blah blah blah. It turns out he was a hypocrite. He gave us like a bunch of videos promoting like vegetarianism, saying, you know, meat is bad, it causes cancer, it's destroying the environment, blah blah blah. And I'm like, when are we going to hear the counter argument to this? He's like, there is no counter argument. I'm like, the fuck there isn't. You just played a 3-hour video with a bunch of scientists telling us that meat will kill us. My mother was in terrible health until she cleaned up her diet and cut out all these garbage carbs and started eating a diet that had a lot more protein in it. He's like, well, I don't believe you. But when I was young, I would constantly see the promotional material saying cities are good for the environment because it packs all these deadly people who are just killing the planet into one place.
What?
Like the cities seem to me it's like a slaughterhouse. It's a fucking meat grinder. Like,
it's not
walk down downtown.
It's not even just a slaughterhouse. Like, the city is actively much worse for the environment. You've got all those people packed in that tight space, which means what? Everybody's got their own personal vehicle. So how much more carbon is that going out?
Here's the problem.
How much more trash is getting put out?
Wait a minute. Here's the problem. So, like, the issue is, yes, all right, if you compare, like, if you had the same amount of human beings in the cities, in the suburbs would be eternally worse for the planet than motherfucking actual cities are, right? And the reason is because of the fact that, like, when you combine all those people versus like their carbon offset and their pollution and all the things that they make, you know what I'm saying? It's actually a much lower percentage rate than it is, you know what I mean, versus, you know what I'm saying, the goddamn suburbs where like everybody has, you know what I mean, like a quarter acre of fucking ground and shit. Ad hoc.
Hello.
I sent you a video on Discord.
I see this video on Discord.
You have good internet, correct?
I do have good internet, yes.
I have very, very shitty internet. It has been dropping me off all night, and I just switched over to my phone's Wi-Fi so that I actually have like okay internet so that it won't drop off. But
you're coming through loud and clear, so whatever you're doing with your phone, it's working.
Would you like me to share this video?
Yes, I would like you to share this video and go to around 4 minutes because, like, you know, got music in the beginning or whatever.
Yeah, I see that. All right,
and
let me
basically we are going to break down to steel what NRX is, and you and a bunch of the people in our chat, because this is something that I just discovered what I believe in has a motherfucking name.
Well, I kind of envy you, but on the subject of cities, it makes sense if you take a bunch of people who are, at least according to mainstream science, which is almost all garbage, and it shouldn't even be called science, it should be called consensus science. The more people who agree on it, the truer it is, apparently. To pack them all in one place, they can do less damage to the environment as a whole. Whereas, like, so if you took all those people who are packed in the city and spread them all out across the earth in self-sustaining farms, then they have to exist in harmony with nature, and then you don't have the problem. So it is a multi-pronged issue, consumerism, pollution, and all that shit. My
Well,
problem is with the fact that they say you can't own a car because you're killing the environment, and the same people who are, paying the politicians to outlaw my gasoline vehicle are the same ones who are dumping many trillions of metric tons of toxic sewage into the ocean every year.
Well, not even just that. They're still taking their planes across from East Coast to West Coast. They call the Midwest flyover country. How much pollution you think those planes are putting out? I mean, jet fuel ain't clean.
There was a meme. It was like, it started off, it said, of all the conventions in the world that should be held, over like video chat, you'd think a climate conference would be one. It was an aerial photograph someone took with a drone or a helicopter, and it was the private airstrip outside of a climate conference. And there must have been one plane for every 4 people there. Like big planes, little planes, private planes, Cessnas, it doesn't fucking matter. I'm like, oh, okay, so I can't have a car, but you can literally have everything. That's cool. Like, this is just anti-human garbage. They've been using this red herring of climate change to justify why we should be serfs for a long time, and I don't fucking buy it.
Rules for thee, not for me.
Exactly.
All right, you want me to start this video when the music stops, or do you want me to actually go to about 4 minutes and try to find wherever they're talking?
I always just put it like I put it like 4 minutes, and it'll be fucking fine. We're not going to miss anything as a whole.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'll go ahead and start here at 360. All right, let's see if this works. If this doesn't work, though, I'll just take my long ass cable and I'll stick it in my laptop.
Okay.
All right. Wired connection is always better.
But yeah, you have to understand, like, just like out in California, they're banning all gasoline lawnmowers at this point, right?
Dude, they're on their way to banning gasoline trucks. Like, I hope that, like, whatever the prices are for goods in California, I hope they're ready to increase by a factor of 30. Like, that's an energy density problem. Like, in order to replace every gasoline big rig on the road, Americans are colloquially referred to as truckitarians. Everything that we eat comes off a truck. If you decrease the energy density of the fuel these trucks run on by a factor of 10 to 20, the prices are going to go through the roof. But no, they're like, well, let's just keep printing more money to save the earth. That's not going to work.
All righty. Okay, there we go. Everybody can probably see it now. Yes. Took a while. It was lagging.
Popped up on my screen yet.
See, I've actually that building I've been digging into, because one of my favorite subjects of study is like hidden history, and like I was looking into like old buildings like that. But I'm going to stop talking so you can play this video.
All right, has it popped up for everybody? We all good?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, you can see it. I mean, I can't see shit, but let's rock. I hope I can hear it.
I should be able to hear it. And if not, Tom, let me know. I'll steal the wiring and I'll transfer it from one computer to the other, and that should fix it. Okay. All righty.
Or whatever, but like, what region was this at? Was it like the Midwest? Or
I'm in the Southeast.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What made you give it up, or just move to something different? Like, what?
It's a mixture of things. Like, it's definitely an interesting job for sure, but it's wildly unstable, and everything is closing down and consolidating. Most companies are being bought up. That's what happened to the paper I was at. They got consolidated, and they just closed one of their offices. And I was like, okay, I got to get a job where, I'm not a month away, because, it's like getting married and stuff. And it's like, okay, I actually need like a regular source of income where they're not just going to fold up one day because like someone decided to, they can get better ad revenue somewhere else.
Gotcha.
Okay, we good? Everyone can hear that?
Interesting. So,
yeah,
this is interesting in general, just because we don't get a lot of right wingers on our show. I've been trying to get more right wingers on. Last was Jeannie, and we just get people sort of in the gray area. Not to like pigeonhole you to anything, but definitely been looking to talk to more people who are who associate with the right generally. So definitely glad to have you on. I sort of like, I personally don't know shit about neo-reactionary thought. Like, I don't really, like, I've only been online like maybe like a year or two, so like I don't and I just don't understand the like the divides among the right that well in general. Jeannie was on explaining some of it, but that's all new to me. I know Slav has said like recently that he was reading some neo-reactionary stuff. And that sort of made you, would you say, Slav, that was making you reconsider like church and all that?
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess before I make any assumptions, like I was just wondering if you could like just give like what you
how do you define neo-reaction? Insofar as one, I guess, maybe could answer that question.
Sure. So there's it's probably worth making sure that we like make a distinction between neo-reactionary political analysis and then like the stuff that neo-reactionaries tend to believe and talk about, because they're kind of separate, because neo-reactionary political analysis is just like a set of tools to look at the way power works. And then those of us that tend to write or discuss or, like make content around that stuff have a kind of a similar, outlook, like definitely kind of more right wing, a lot of trad Caths, traditional Catholics and stuff in there. But it's not exclusive to that. It's like I said, it's like picking up a hammer and saying the hammer's right wing, right? It's just a hammer. You could use it however you want.
Right.
First thing that immediately comes to mind, parallel on the left would be Marxism.
Right. I was thinking the same.
You talk about Marxism. You tell 1,000 people, or you ask 1,000 people to define Marxism, you're going to get 1,000 different answers.
Right. You might get a bunch of retards who claim to be Marxist, but Marxism itself can be functionally very useful.
Well, you'll get 999 retards.
Right. But the point being,
he's not wrong.
That Marxism can be like a hammer, like the way, CWH just talked about it. Just like it can be.
Well, that's what people say about Buddhism as well. Like real, actual Buddhists would be like, Buddhism is just like a set of teachings and principles. So I think that's really like a parallel you can see a lot of different areas.
Sure.
But as far as like with Marxism, that's specifically like, that's how I guess I probably would describe it, or how I use it, because like I don't really like to cling to particularly identifying with that as a political identity, or really identifying as any type of political thing as an identity. But really, it's just kind of just information you can use and process the things around you however you want.
Right. Instead of these,
sounds like the same kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like instead of these things being tools that people can pick up and use and apply, people take it as like costumes or whatever. Just like, I need the Marxist starter pack or the neo-reactionary starter pack or whatever. Like,
I need to hop on the dogma quick.
Yeah. And like, just cosplay these things. But what do you think those tools are in your mind? Like what exactly, what does that mean to you?
Sure. So when most people talk about like reactionary philosophy, they're usually talking about, and not in the Marxist way directly here, but when you're talking about reactionary philosophy, you tend to talk about people who are kind of anti-Enlightenment or very Enlightenment skeptical. And so if you look at some of the earliest guys, you're probably looking at guys like Joseph de Maistre or Thomas Carlyle, and they're the ones who are kind of looking at they're kind of writing as things are going on, late 1700s, early 1800s, and everything's getting adopted and applied. And they're saying, look, guys, there's a lot of problems here. This doesn't actually map onto reality the way you want it to, and we're all going to pay a cost if we like order society under this set of assumptions. And so neo-reactionary thought is really just kind of picking up a lot of those tools and dusting them off and saying, the story of the Enlightenment is kind of bunk, and pretending that like humanity suddenly became this hyper-rational animal magically, and everything like became very logical and cold and analytical is kind of ridiculous. And if we assume that, maybe we can go back and take a lot of those like understandings of power and how it flows and how it's used by the state and other actors inside the state, and maybe we can apply those things onto our current situation and see if that explains stuff that otherwise doesn't make sense in kind of our current liberal democratic framework. And so a lot of neo-reaction is borrowing very heavily from kind of the Italian elitist school, guys like Moscow or Prato, James Burnham is a guy who updated a lot of this stuff and is a big influence. Guys like Bertrand Juvenal are big contributors to kind of this thought of kind of who actually drives power and what actually determines who's in charge in any given society.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So what I can glean from that is sort of like a rejection of like classical liberalism, like what I guess some of these IDW people will claim of just sort of like that period, that alone. Like I guess there's certain right leaning or independent people who will claim classical liberalism or whatever. But this is sort of even before that. This is saying that even that is rejecting even that school of thought, like even further back.
Yeah, you're definitely looking at people who are very skeptical of democracy and liberalism in general. It's a lot of people who really, when you look at when they look at the current political landscape, the things that we call right are really just one half of liberalism in America. Especially, we kind of just cracked liberalism in half and put one half of it in the Democrat pile, one half in the Republican pile. And so I think the terms left and right are useful. But if you just have it stuck in your head like GOP right, you're definitely barking up the wrong tree when you're talking about like neo-reactionary thought.
Pause it real quick.
Right. Yeah, I think.
Okay.
All right. So like, in America, we took liberalism and busted it to fucking half, right? So like the GOP or the right wing, you know what I'm saying, is like, the Republicans that we currently like look at, they're the economic liberals, right? Oh, holy shit, it just finally popped the fuck up for me, right? And then, fucking the Democrats are the social liberals, right?
Okay.
You know what I mean? So like we kind of busted liberalism in half as a whole in America. Whereas like the rest of the world, or like the rest of like Europe as a whole, like they're liberals, like they have one side that's actually like, fucking like actually like socially and economically liberal. And then they'll have like another side that's, more like authoritarian and whatnot. Right.
Yeah.
And so like neither one of our ideologies is kind of correct when it comes down to it. You know what I mean?
And part of that mainly has to do with how even that the politics are even done in Europe. Like here in America, it's quote unquote a two-party system. Everybody's kind of divided up between these two camps. Not so in Europe, where they've got like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different parties. It's like every ideologue like has its own party. So instead of being busted in half like it is here, it's its own separate, third party to whatever they've got going on over there.
Yeah.
Like it's intact over there, not unlike it is over here.
Yeah, and they actually have like real actual Christian fucking parts of their like governments and shit, right? Like they have like Germany has the Christian Democrats. You know what I mean? Like, and so like there's actual like real people who are running on a fucking theocratic basis. You know what I'm saying? When they're looking at the fucking government and shit. You know what I mean? And so like in America, like you have to like just things are way, way, way different than everywhere else in the fucking world. You know what I mean? But I just wanted to break that down real quick before we continue, because like so I kind of wanted to break down like neo-reactionism, but this guy puts it way better than I do. You know what I mean? So like that's kind of where the mentality is and shit. All right. So let's keep rocking. All right.
All right.
Thank you, buddy.
Rocking in and rolling in.
Good. I think anybody with clear eyes could see that they're as far as the two parties, the GOP and the DNC are sort of two wings, the same like neo-libcon order. That's pretty clear. So I guess what we've talked about on the show before is sort of like, well, Slav has said this before too, of just like, they've gotten rid of all the good parts of liberalism and kept all the bad parts, or heightened all the bad parts, and that personally, I don't reject all the tenets of basic liberalism. You know what I mean? Like I don't like classical liberalism. Like I don't have an issue with democracy or those things like that. But what just for somebody who just has no idea, like for me, for instance, like what are the arguments basically in terms of like why this needs to be rejected, or why this was a whole wrong path we just walked on for centuries and just led to where we're at now?
Sure. So, I mean, I guess the biggest thing that you probably want to look at is the thing that is probably the takeaway most people have from neo-reaction is the cathedral model.
Right. Slava's mentioned this. Yeah. Right. Moldbug, right? I talked about this.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Moldbug, Mencius Moldbug, or Curtis Yarvin, he's writing under his real name now. He's definitely the father of neo-reaction. You have a lot of other guys like Nick Land, Spandrel, who are pretty essential to it. And that's the other thing about neo-reaction. It's a loose collection of blogs. It's there's no formal doctrine. There's no there's no official canon. The church has not laid down Vatican II or whatever. Like, there's nothing like that. So what you're really looking at is basically Mencius Moldbug and the people who wrote stuff reflecting on what he wrote. But the thing that's very popular is the cathedral model. It's so popular now, you'll even hear Fox News hosts talk about it, which is, like a couple of times Fox News hosts have mentioned it, which is they don't use it right. So it's going to become meaningless soon. But
Slav had mentioned it.
All things do.
Yeah, this happens to everything.
That's how they start. The absorption has begun.
Yeah. No, we're smack dab in the co-opt phase.
Right.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to you.
I'm just happy, maybe I can cash in and grift. I don't know.
Hey man, dust off that old newsboy hat, right?
I've got a couple power ties back from my working in politics days. I can still do this, right?
Get the blue check and all that. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Slav had mentioned the cathedral a year ago. I remember he had told us like we need to just get like basic understanding of. And honestly, like I kind of missed what the basics of it were. Honestly, like I have a general idea, but like how would you guys explain that to someone who doesn't know what it is, basically?
Yeah, so the cathedral is basically the decentralized consensus-making apparatus in a society. So when you're running something on monarchy, like it's pretty clear whose opinion matters, right? Like the monarchs and maybe some nobles and some people in the church, but power is very clear. It's very direct. It's very concentrated. Accountability mechanisms might be low, but accountability visibility is high, right? You know who to blame. When we're looking at democracy, when we're looking at liberal democracy, we're looking at a system which is supposed to feature popular sovereignty. And I'm probably not telling you guys anything new here, but the key to controlling popular sovereignty is controlling what people think.
Yep.
So if you want to control democracy, you're not going to gauge the opinion of people. You're going to control the opinion of people. That's how it works. And so what the cathedral model is trying to answer is, obviously we look at something like the Soviet Union. And the example that Moldbug always likes to use is he talks about this journalist who used to work in Germany, right? And he's this Jewish journalist in Germany in the 1930s, and he has a subscription to a cat magazine. And then he notices that through the 1930s, slowly the articles about cats start to become about the German cat. And so it's very clear that something is going on, right? Like all of culture suddenly is not just talking about what it's supposed to be talking about. It's talking about that in the context of the state ideology. And so when you have something like, the Soviet Union or something, who's doing it. It's the Politburo, right? Like you have an official organ that tells people what's going to go into publications and that kind of thing.
We call that the Ministry of Truth.
Western media, especially U.S. media, the New York Times, Harvard, the unelected bureaucracy, the entertainment media, they all seem to kind of be moving in the same direction. Sometimes it's one's a little bit behind the other, but it's funny that you never see Yale and Harvard and the New York Times and all these different places disagree with each other. And if there's no central organ that is dictating who's doing this, then we need to understand why we see this phenomenon even in a society that doesn't have that overt central organ. And so the answer for neo-reactionaries is the cathedral. And the cathedral is the collection of consensus-making apparatus in the United States and therefore the wider Western world. It's your news media, especially your universities, your unelected bureaucrats inside government agencies that aren't accountable to voters.
TikTok, all this shit, all this nightmare shit.
Your influencers.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're looking at this, the reason that they all tend to work together is that they all went to the same church. They all went to the same cathedral.
Right.
Their morals are more or less dictated from kind of their time in college. Anybody who's going to be a middle manager or an upper class manager, anybody who's going to lead an NGO or a government organization or become a general or write newspaper articles, they all have to go to the same elite universities, and they all eat together and date each other, and they basically it serves the exact same function as a cathedral in the Middle Ages.
All right,
and so that's exactly, and so that's where Neo Reaction is going with the cathedral, is that there's.
All right, so Snake, did you hear all that, man?
Yeah.
All right, so what you have to understand, right, is that like government and fucking the government and the media and the state, right, all legitimately went to fucking school at the same place and got the same.
Exactly. It's a giant monolithic thing, right?
Yeah. Right. And so like what you have to understand is that like they've all got the wrong mentality at the same time.
Well, see, what I'm confused, like when people say that liberal democracy is an issue, what made you think that your vote ever mattered in the first place? Like, why did you think that we could, because you can't vote your way out of this problem? That should be evident at this point. Like there was the movie Gangs of New York that they've, and that again, that was just a Hollywood movie. And again, Hollywood is like the same people who are in charge of Hollywood are in charge of, the news and the media, big business and government. It's all one big club and we're not in it.
Well, yeah. But like, the stuff, the part in the Gangs of New York was what's known as Tammany Hall, right? And it was actually like well documented about what happened with that.
Oh
right?
yeah,
like this is not like something that's like ahistorical and shit. It is not something that's like like made up by fucking Hollywood. That was an actual thing. Like that was a real fuck. That's why like that movie felt so real, is because there was a lot of parts of it that were absolutely real.
Except the like the anti-American pro-immigration sentiment that was laced throughout that movie that I didn't like. I was rooting for Bill the Butcher the whole time, but some people might call
me too. I'll be real. I was too. I'll be honest with you. Right. That's why like on my reaction channel that I have on Appalachia Reactions, I literally just did a fucking video last night on Don't Look Up. Right, which is a movie that's out on Netflix right now. Yo, if any of y'all have Netflix, go watch that fucking movie. Yo, it is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like, yo, because the leftists think they're being really, really clever about like going, oh, look what the right wing's doing. And legit, like that whole movie is just a cell phone at this point, because it was written during the Trump era, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And like now that like fucking Biden's in the presidency and like guys like Robert Malone are getting fucking deleted off the fucking Twitter and shit. It's fucking awesome. In general,
was that movie that predicted they basically predicted the collapse we're having right now and like all the bad things, but they said no, it'll be the right, No.
It's a movie about like art. So Leonardo DiCaprio and what's her face, Jennifer Lawrence, are from Michigan State, and they operate a telescope at a college, right? And they found a comet that's heading directly to Earth. Right, and it's going to destroy Earth, and they go to the president, and like it's Meryl Streep and Nick Jonas, which is supposed to be Donald Trump and fucking Trump Jr. Right, and like they're both like, well, you know what I'm saying, we're gonna fucking, you're from Michigan State, we don't really respect you, you know what I'm saying, fucking like, we have to have some people from Harvard and Yale take a look at this and Stanford before we fucking stand here and like actually, believe what you're telling us. And then they go on the motherfucking news, and like the broad's like, why are you laughing right now? Like they went on like what looks to be like Fox and Friends, like it had like a red background and shit. And like fucking like they sat here and Like they're like, why are you laughing? Like these people are all like really bubbly and like, oh man, is this thing gonna hit my ex-wife's house? Can you possibly make it do that? And I mean that type of thing, right? And like, yeah, right. So like it's literally like just a cell phone. And then like in the end of the movie, like Shorty and the scientists end up getting kicked off of Twitter and black bagged and like fucking kidnapped and taken to the FBI building and shit. Like it's fucking crazy, right? But the thing is that legitimately, you know what I mean? Like, yo, at this point, it's literally like fucking about what's happening with, you know what I mean, the COOF at the moment. I don't want to mention it too much because like I literally just got off a strike for a week from fucking talking about that shit.
By the way, I have a plan to reform all of Hollywood. We just kill every director except for Mel Gibson and who's the other guy? Clint Eastwood, and we just give them charge. We just make them in charge of Hollywood.
Nah. You gotta leave Martin Scorsese alone too.
Well, I mean, he doesn't have the he's okay, fine. He can be a producer.
But yeah, you know what I mean. Y'all gotta watch that movie. It's the best thing ever. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. Right? Well, not the funniest thing, but still, it's pretty fucking hilarious. Anyway, yeah. So did you hear what he said about you know what I mean, like the whole thing about the cathedral and shit, my man?
Yeah.
And like, how do you feel about that? Because like, I feel like this is where the disconnect is for, you know what I'm saying? Like most individuals who think that it's malevolent.
Well, listen, the problem, because I've always heard the saying, never attribute to malice what can more easily be, you know, attributed to stupidity. But I've always found that to be true in the reverse. Like evil people always claim incompetence because it alleviates them from the guilt. And listen, I had an issue. There was a book that was written. There was a guy in the early 1900s. He was going to Africa to study the great apes. And this was the early 1900s, so it took him a while to charter the boat and gather the gear and get the crew. And he decided to busy himself studying every book he could find and speaking to every supposed expert on the great apes. When he actually got there on the ground and started filming them, he was amazed. He actually didn't even end up doing that much work on the great apes. He freaked out because he realized that nearly everything that was written about that subject was garbage. And there's not one subject from virology, and I'm a biotech major, or astronomy, and I have several telescopes. I'm busy building a bigger one. I'm also a geometry major. There's not one subject that I can dig into that is not wholesale bullshit when you actually get into it for yourself. Like we give so much faith to these scientific ideologues, and as I said, it's not science; it's consensus science. So the idea that we can make some kind of logical inference as to what's going on, I have an issue with that. Like I know the overwhelming majority of my friends are ex-military. I'm not sure why. That's just my crowd. I have a friend. He served in Iraq. He's been out for about 11 years. What he tells me as to what's going on there, he has no reason to lie, but I have many other people who served there. The stories that they give me, it's not always the same story. Not all these people served together on the same unit. A lot of them didn't even see combat. But what they tell me happened is so fundamentally black and white different from what's actually written in the history books and what we actually see on TV. It's mind-blowing. So I find it hard to believe that something 200 years in the past could even be trusted. I have a friend in Discord. He runs a channel called IDDQD Publishing, and he's actually starting his own private publishing and printing firm. He's actually going to be printing a couple of my books because, again, I could get them printed if I was willing to pay a lot of money, but no one's going to publish my shit. I have a habit of saying things that people don't say or aren't supposed to say, but like there's no book, no expert, not one famous person whose words are not questionable to me. And I'm having a really hard time verifying anything with my own eyes, my own measurements, and my own math. So I don't mean to say that this argument is worthless. Like let's have this argument. But the idea that we have fucked this up ourselves, that's the same anti-human sentiment that we have ruined the earth and we need to take away your freedom. No more airplanes, no more cars, because you're ruining it.
Well, again, like a lot of this shit though is nothing more than government theater, right? In the end of the day, right? Like
it's
a lot of it's
theater. It's ludicrous kabuki theater. This is like something out of a movie.
I know, but like you gotta remember, the government's fucking
hilarious.
They're trying, like, all right, the government has, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like they have one tool, which is a hammer, so all of their problems have to look like a fucking nail, right? You know, they're fucking garbage just as a whole thing, you know, just wholesale. They're fucking trash. And I have a question about your mentality about how like everything we've been taught is fucking wrong. Is it because it's low resolution shit that's taught the fucking kids, and then once you start getting into it, it's a whole different animal? Or is it just in general like it's the opposite of what the fuck it is they told us?
Well, I've lived by a philosophy since I was very young. And I started into this for some kind of rebellious reason. I was told, stay away from hard drugs. I've done a bunch. Now, it's killed several people who I know, but I'm not them. I had a fun time and I learned a lot. And now I have chosen myself to stay away from that. But I've lived my entire life by the philosophy that what I'm told not to do. Now, when they tell me not to inject bleach into my arm, I'm not just going to do it. I'm at least going to research it. At the very least, I'll test it on a mouse first. But like, I have a very happy marriage. I have a very happy marriage, and I treat my wife the exact opposite way that popular media tells me to treat her. I've spent my entire life doing almost exactly the opposite of what I'm told, and it has always worked out for me. So to say categorically, demonstrably that everything that we are told is false and we should do the opposite, that's not necessarily true. But again, there's not one subject that I look into. Like for like the American Heart Association has been demonizing like animal fat for years, saying, oh, it gives you terrible cholesterol and it'll kill your heart, it'll give you cancer. Like most of my family members, we eat a lot of meat, and those of us who are very active are unreasonably, unfairly healthy. So that's a lie. There's nothing that I can look into that is not provably false when you actually do it for yourself. Like you can go on Wikipedia or read books about it, and you can more or less confirm what they say, but actually do the experiments for yourself, you know, gather the measurements and do the math for yourself. Like math doesn't really lie, but it can be used to tell lies.
Like I know since we was kids, like they've told us that like steak was bad and all this shit, right?
Yeah, that's garbage.
And yeah, but that's complete and utter bullshit, right? Because like once you start like getting into it and understanding what like steak and seafood really is and what it does for you, you start understanding. You go, oh, well, apparently it's the most lean, proper fucking meat that you can goddamn eat, and like with the highest content of protein of any meat on the motherfucking planet, right? And like the whole idea that like cholesterol comes from, you know what I'm saying, like animal fats is utter and complete fucking bullshit.
Absolutely.
Right? Like animal fats come from like fucking like fake fucking oils and things of this nature, right? That you put into your fucking body from like, you know, mass produced.
Oh yeah, that hydrogenated vegetable oil. Like every time you stray from the natural world, like we are told, like don't go out and start a farm. You'll get parasites and you'll die. Like every time we stray from the natural world, every time we stray far from nature. And I could turn this into a philosophical debate or a religious debate. Like the religious people who I know say you can't improve on God's plan. And the scientism people who I know who are actually free thinkers say you can't improve on nature. Call it, call it God, call it whatever you want. The world it really can't be improved, in my opinion. Like on a fundamental, pragmatic level, you really can't improve on the natural state of humans. I know people who are nomadic and they hunt and they stay active. They are unreasonably healthy. And I see all these fucking moronic kids like these, like you ever watch one of those Antifa riots? These kids lose every fight because they look like they're dying of cancer because they eat Hot Pockets and drink Monster Energy and sit inside and play video games. Like that shit will kill you far faster than I will die. So again, I think it's like just about everything that we have taught is categorically wrong. And the only way to break yourself of this belief that anything that you have been taught is true is to actually look into it for yourself. Like I know a couple of independent astronomers. I asked them like, how do you feel about the heliocentric model? And they're like, sounds plausible. And I'm like, well, what about the planets? They're like, what about them? I'm like, well, how do they move? And he's like, oh, I don't have a powerful enough telescope to measure them. I've yet to find an independent astronomer who can track a planet or a so-called wandering star throughout its entire, you know, trajectory. So there are things that cannot be confirmed by us. So either we are being controlled by these big-brained geniuses who we can't measure up to, or they are just lying. It's one or the other. Either maybe they're idiots and they're just making it up, as you say. But again, if you have all the power in the world, you can afford to be an idiot. Like, none of these people are big thinkers. Like, you don't have to be a big thinker if you're the biggest, strongest guy in the room. All you have to do is slam your fist on the table and people will do what you say. I'm not saying they're geniuses, but they have the money to buy anyone who's smart enough out of the private sector. Like, if you graduate from college and your scores are insane, they will recruit you. So again, I have an issue with believing anything that's written as doctrine.
I meet a lot of very, very reasonable, intelligent individuals who talk about, you know what I'm saying, like how like the basic nature of astronomy and fucking like the Earth and like fucking the idea that like it's spherical or whatever. Like, I meet a lot of really reasonable, intelligent people who fucking say that like the Earth is a fucking flat plane. And I'll be honest with you, son. Like, yo, I'm not jumping on that motherfucking. I'm not jumping on that joint. I'm just not doing it. I'm not. Yo, flat earthers too far for me. Yo, it's just too far. Like,
it was far too far for me until I actually did some of the measurements and the math for myself. And with the second, I keep kneecapping myself because I keep talking to people who are like, you seem really smart, you've done a lot of research, but it's just too far. So I keep saying, I don't really know what shape it is, but for the life of me, I've been trying to measure the curve for 2 years. And every time someone's like, well, your lens just isn't powerful enough. I've got a 390 times zoom Nikon camera, and I'm trying to build an even more powerful telescope. But the issue is, while I am convinced because I've seen it for myself, until I force them to look through it and teach them to do the math, that no one will believe it. So the idea that I could convince someone that what I have found true for myself, that's not possible. And if you were the kind of person who would simply believe the Earth is flat because I tell you it is, well, then you're no use to me because you have been told it. Like, I only believe the Earth was round because I was told it. It's because I was too stupid to do it not too stupid, but too lazy to do it for myself. If I could convince you by telling you, you are no use to me. I want people who are like, I have a movement and a group too. I'm not going to name it. It's kind of a Fight Club thing. You don't talk about Fight Club, but I'm looking for people who are not only smart enough and have a good enough work ethic, but who are resourceful enough to try and help me verify some of this stuff. So yeah, I agree. I don't expect, in fact, I hope that my words alone are not enough to convince you of this. I've heard hundreds, thousands of people tell me this. I told them, you're fucking insane. They said, look at it for yourself. And one day I finally said, you know what? I've heard it enough. And it was a really painful time in my life.
Here's my mentality, right? Here's my mentality about individuals around me, right? Like, so, if you believe, right, and if you've done the measurements, whatever it is, right, whatever it is that you have like settled yourself into for your mentality about how you sit here and like look at, you know what I mean, like how the Earth is shaped or how like the planets move. It doesn't really affect me day to day, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, because day to day, like, I'm still going to wake up and I'm going to go to work and I'm going to make money and I'm going to come home and I'm going to pay my bills and I'm going to spend time with my kids, right? So, like, even if that was true, it doesn't matter.
So if I were to sit here and show you the math that the Earth was banana shaped, would you believe me?
No, like, you can build a mathematical model around anything. Like, like, for instance, the gravity equations do extrapolate to something approximating the truth. So they work out from a mathematical standpoint, but from a philosophical standpoint, they start to fall flat, especially when you dig into the details. But like, if you could show me, like, for instance, fly a telescope out into space and take a picture of the Earth from orbit and show me that it's a banana, and then give that videotape to me so I can submit it to the people who I know who are good in photography and computers, so they can troubleshoot that video for themselves. By the way, nothing that NASA has ever given us will stand up to the scrutiny. Nothing. But most people they're not too dumb, they're just too lazy, and they don't want to believe it. Like, they built this up in our minds. They're like, no, oh my God. But I watch Star Trek. I need to believe that we can go into space. All that beautiful fucking all that shit. what's the word? All that fantasy that I've invested so much of my life in believing that we could one day achieve. If that's all wrong, I have nothing. Now, that's the thing that held me up. Like for the past I want to say 10 years or so, I have an issue sleeping at night for reasons that I won't discuss. When my mind is left to its own devices, it takes me to places I don't want to go again. And one of the things that was always good for shutting my mind off and distracting me was astrophysics lectures. So I was very invested in it, but I refuse to be invested in something that isn't true. So again, if you can prove to me that the Earth is banana shaped, and not just with the math. By the way, good luck with that. I'd like to see that.
It was just a Monty Python reference.
Well, right. Anyway, but I love Monty Python. Anyway, but I hate to put too fine a point on it, but I've had this discussion with maybe 400 people in the last 2 years, and they all call me an idiot, and they're like, "I can prove you wrong." I'm like, I have $500 here sitting in an account to the first person who can prove me wrong by observation, backed up by math. And no one has even attempted to prove me wrong. So, and I don't think that most of these people are lazy. The biggest thing I get is that, oh, I'm not good with math. And I'm like, well, then go away. You're a peasant. Go get back on your fucking subsistence farm. If you can't do math, you're worthless to people like me. Like that's like someone, oh, well, like I have a car that needs fixed. Well, I can't fix cars. Then get the fuck away. Stop staring under my hood and telling me how to do what I know how to do. But shit, hang on, I was saying something.
Like dude, I'm an economics and power dynamics guy. Like that's what I know. Right. You know what I'm saying? So like I know this shit, you know what I mean, enough that like I can stand here and speak on it and go like this is what this is. I'm a logistics guy. I know like how to fucking explain that type of thing to you. Right. But like when it comes to astrophysics and shit, dude, I'm nowhere near knowledgeable enough to educate motherfuckers about how things operate or to even have an argument with somebody who's, you know what I mean, out here like really getting it done. So like it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Like, I still say Pluto is a planet.
It might be. It's at least a wandering star by my definition, but it's very.
I mean, all right. Yo, look, we're getting really far away.
Can I just say one thing? That happens to be where every argument ends. How does this affect me? I can only tell you how discovering this for myself with my own math and with my own eyes has affected me. It has colored everything that I've been told by the establishment as a very plausible lie. Because if they could lie about that, they could lie about everything. So I no longer take anything as doctrine. I don't believe something until I prove it for myself. And that has definitely helped me philosophically, and it has actually helped me practically. Like when I want to know something, I no longer go to Wikipedia. I seek out an independent professional, and I find a way to verify their results. And that definitely does help. So that's the only thing that believing that this is true or suspecting that it's true can do for you. It can't improve your life. You're still going to have to go to work in the morning. You're still going to have to drive a car. You're still going to have to take care of your family. It won't do anything for you. But honestly, what is debating the concept of monarchy in America doing for us right now? It's a philosophical debate. We enjoy it just as much as I enjoy any respectful, intelligent debate. But trying to nail down the pragmatic reason why we're doing this, humans are fickle. There's really no way to make sense of what we do.
Well, I feel you, but on the same point. On the same point, I reach like 30,000 people a month with my motherfucking YouTube shit, right? So, I mean, like I'm kind of having an effect and I'm making a dent. You know, I mean, that's why we're discussing this. This kind of the mentality, right? And like I have people who have like, you know, I mean, like 2 or 3, 400,000 subs who watch my shit, right? And then take what I say and then gleam it off into their own thing. So understand, like, this, yes, is important. You know what I mean? What I do does affect the world around me because it affects other people, which affects other people. You know what I mean? And my words get the fuck out there. That's kind of the mentality, right? But like, the flat earth thing, you know what I mean, kind of just, you know what I mean, like it shuts individuals down. It's the same as saying like, oh, you know what I mean, like the Holocaust never happened. The same type of mentality. Like motherfuckers just go, oh man, yeah. I'm never going to have another conversation ever again with these people. That's kind of the mentality.
This is the nature of our divisive, polarized world. Like like for instance, in certain circles, the gun rights debate will shut down an intelligent, logical discussion the same way. Like if you travel in liberal circles, it's unheard of. That is verboten. You do not advocate for self-defense. You call the police and you sit there and you put your little penis in your mouth with your head between your knees and you just hope to God that no one hurts you. Like that's what they believe. And the right has
for
the
me,
exact opposite
like
opinion.
for me, like I'm like my thing is like if I know that like you know some shit about something, and I mean I'm gonna listen the whole way through to whatever the fuck it is you got to say, even if I got to listen through like some shit that I go, I'm not gonna get behind that. There's other things that I'm gonna go, all right, you know, what I mean, like we can glean jewels off of this, and that's an important understanding. Like, but that's just me. I'm mentally capable of that. A lot of people aren't. So let's get back to this motherfucking video because like I don't want to get the whole way through it, nothing like that. But I got a bunch of Michael Hatfield, what up? I got a bunch of stuff that I want to, you know what I mean, address in this video and shit, and kind of pass on the word about. So ad hoc.
Okay.
Hit that play button, my brother.
Touch.
Let's go.
Always this push in a similar direction, and it's always progressive morality. And because, like any morality, progressivism is self-reinforcing, everyone is looking to make sure other people are on board. So your government bureaucrat is checking to make sure your business leader is complying with diversity quotas, and then your New York Times writer is writing articles about how diversity quotas aren't strict enough, and then your NGO is working to lobby the government to make sure that we have higher standards, and it's just a self-reinforcing purity spiral that's always pushing us continually in one direction, even though there's not one specific organization that's in charge.
It always reminds me of the classic what was it, Colbert line of him saying like what did he say? It's like the funny thing is that reality tends to have a liberal bent. Just like it would just like, of course, just like as Zizek would say or something, just pure ideology, just pure, and almost in the model you're laying out, like in this kind of fucked up way, like what he's saying is kind of true. It's just that, I mean, it's his reality. But like, of course someone like that would say a thing like that.
Well, I think he's even right. So
yeah, exactly.
one of the things we talk about is the left as entropy. You think as standards,
Cthulhu swims to the left.
Cthulhu swims left. He swims slowly, but he always swims left. And so one of the things is that you're incentivized to always move in that direction. This is why the history of the arc of history is long, but it bends towards
justice, right.
at least justice, their idea of justice. Right. I think that's actually true to some extent, because there is a natural process that pushes opinion in that direction. Every time you have an opportunity, every time you have disagreement, there's an opportunity to rule. And anytime you can create a purity spiral, you can capture more power. And that's what really these organs are all trying to do. They're all in competition for power. So they're all busy trying to prove that they are the ones who should be driving this train wherever it's going. And that's why you constantly see them swimming in the same direction.
So the natural response to this is, and this is sort of harkening back to like our earlier episodes when we talked a little bit more theory, is sort of this hard authoritarianism versus soft authoritarianism, where they get consent. I mean, to me, it was always like a Huxleyan thing versus an Orwellian thing. Like it's like they get you to want what they want. You know what I mean? They get it organically in terms of the Huxleyan way and the soft authoritarianism. But so the response to that is to be like, oh, it's preferable for it to be, I guess they say that Moldbug is for monarchy. I don't really know his views, but that's the caricature of them. So,
yeah, what would you say that neo-reactionaries, like, do you think that oftentimes many of them lean towards being pro-monarchy or like being like neo-monarchist type people, or is it more so just like what's the alternative to like the one that's most often pitched by neo-reactionaries, or is there often not one by people who are actually creating this theory?
So Moldbug, especially in his early work, wrote a lot about neo-cameralism, which is basically taking, taking somewhat of a monarchy model, taking a CEO and making him, king, of small states. It's not a great idea.
Amazon Valley.
Yeah, it's
Right.
funny because we're probably closer to that than most people would like.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I
Yes,
mean,
it's-
because it happened down in Nevada. They already
Right.
passed the law that we've talked about before, but to allow like tech companies to form their own municipalities if they're able to pledge that they'll bring X amount of revenue over X amount of time.
Yeah, so this is why efficiency brain is always going to murder your society, no matter how smart you are. And while I respect Moldbug deeply, he's a wild autist, and so you have to, you really have to take that into account. I would say the one thing that definitely binds all people who are like using the NRX lens, whether they lean monarchy or neocameralism or something else, is they want an increase in formalism. We want the connection between power, authority, and therefore accountability to be clear. We want to know who's in charge. We want to make it very clear what the rules are, and we want to make it clear who's to blame if they fail. One of the things democracy is really good at is making sure that you blame your neighbor for something the elites fucked up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it sounds familiar
Right.
given the last year or two.
Yeah.
For COVID,
So- Yeah, well, the key is to make sure that your neighbor in the MAGA hat who repipes people's houses for a living is the person who destroyed America, not the guy who sent your job to China, right? Or to make sure that the guy down the road who's joined a union was the one who destroyed America, and not the people who are wasting all of your money fighting someone in the Middle East. And so by making sure that no one is ever held accountable, because really at the end of the day the people are sovereign, right? And so they're the ones making the decisions, then there's really no way to ever hold any individuals really feet to the fire. And because power is so wildly distributed inside the government anyway, even if you do actually manage to hold
Hey, Pinoy,
some
could I
segment of the
comment on that
government
real quick?
accountable, you don't actually, you're just
Yeah, go
cutting
ahead,
one
man.
head
Go.
off the
Ad hoc.
Hydra.
Got it.
Okay, so what again, I agree with what he's saying, absolutely. Like, liberal democracy is a great way to alleviate guilt from those who are actually in power and assign it again to the people. This is part of the part of the divide and conquer tactic. We've been led to believe our entire lives that we choose our destiny, and then when we fuck shit up, it's not necessarily your fault, but it's the fault of someone you can actually touch and someone you can actually hurt. That's why we have Antifa riots and Proud Boys. And I personally don't believe this to have ever been true, but he is absolutely right there. Like this is a great way to alleviate guilt from those who are actually responsible. Like people are blaming the Trump supporters for what's going wrong in their country, or the Biden supporters, rather than those who are actually in power.
You're not
Forget
wrong,
punch
right?
a Nazi,
Not-
punch a politician.
like, and as I was saying earlier, like the whole point of the NRX movement, right, is literally just to go like, all right, look, we want to know what the fucking rules are, who the fuck's in charge, and who's to blame for the fucking bullshit, right? It's a way of looking at the power dynamics of how shit actually works, right? And right now, like where the power is so fucking convoluted that nobody has any idea who the fuck's to blame for anything that's going on right now. And that's why, like, you have all these people on the internet going, it's the Jews, right? And then you have, like, guys, we have motherfucking, like, kids in the street fucking rioting going, it's, the fucking rich white elites, right? And then you have black people going like, oh, man, it's white people, right? And, like, it's just all this nonsense because shit is so fucking, like, like, convoluted and fucking hidden. And it's so occult at this point that literally, like, nobody has any idea what the fuck is going on. And, like, my idea is the American divorce, right? Like, that's my mentality, right, about this. I think it's a better way of having government is to have a government that's much more closer to you, that isn't ruling over 300 million people on a continent. Having individuals who are like you and, more attached to how you are as being part of your government and shit. Right. I think that's a better way of doing things and setting things up so that, like, literally, like, the individuals you're voting for and the individuals voting around you are more homogenous towards your mentality, your way of life, and your culture, and building an actual culture so that you can actually hold individuals accountable in a manner in which you go, man, listen, like, oh, you're not doing what it is that we do. Like, if you're living that far different from, like, how we live, You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not acceptable. Because right now, like, you know, me and fucking Steel, right? Like, we live in these fucking mountains and shit. And when you look at individuals in DC, it's normal to see them living in a manner in which we would never fucking live. You know what I mean? That's just kind of the mental, and that needs to fucking change. You know what I mean? Right.
Well, see, when you say that, I
right.
completely agree with you. Like the idea, like I have an issue with top-down centralized control, and that's why I don't support the idea of a king necessarily, because all you're doing is taking the power that's in the hands of a few people, which is causing tons of problems and exacerbating the problem. But the idea of leaders being accountable and again reducing the size of, like, you know, control sections, that's what I would like to see.
Well,
I'm
think about
curious
it.
as
Think
to
about
how
it.
we would achieve that, but
Here's
So
the
that's
problem.
how the U.S. was originally set up. The problem is that with all these emergency powers over the years, as country faced great crises, those powers were never revoked. They should have run their course and allowed to expire.
No, that's
You see
not
that
the
he-
issue.
you
That's
see
not,
that
that's not
here.
the issue.
You see it here with the COVID emergency powers.
That's not the problem, ad hoc, at all. The problem is that literally, like, the state got the DC government, the federal government as a whole has grown to a point where literally, like, none of the individuals we elect are actually in charge of it.
And
That's the problem.
that's also what I'm saying. The original intent was that for the states to govern themselves, and the federal government was just kind of to be a mediator between the states. Over the years, with all these crises, and as the years have passed, we have centralized more power into DC than it ever should have had. It should not have gotten this powerful. It should not have ever been this centralized. But we did that. We shouldn't have.
I feel you. I feel completely where you're at. You know what I mean? And again, this comes back to the mentality of FDR and Wilson, and the idea of a guy. I think it was Jacob Adams, something like that. Fucking, he was part of, like, the Adams lineage, right? Fucking, I mean, like, fucking John Quincy and John Adams and shit.
Yes.
One of his fucking grandkids or great grandkids actually sat here and set up a scientific government, right? And, like, had colleges come in and literally start doing what used to be done on the county level or a town level at a federal level. You know what I mean? And so now we have all these, like, bureaucracies that are filled with middle management types that came out of college with these degrees, and they're literally just, you know what I mean, like, nobody's to fucking charge them and shit. You know what I mean? That's the mentality, and that's the problem as a whole. And so how you solve that is, you know what I mean, you have to disassemble the entirety of the motherfucking state apparatus, just in general, right? And shouting at clouds, BlackRock is not an issue. All right, you need to stop. Okay, like, that's not a fucking problem as a whole, right? Just stop it. Like, BlackRock is okay. So if I told you, okay, that there was a stock that the Fed was going to continually just pump up, like an individual stock, you would buy that motherfucker all day, and you dump every dollar that you could fucking spare into that bitch forever in perpetuity. That's what BlackRock is doing. They see what the Fed is doing. The Fed is standing here holding up the housing market. They own 30% of all MBS products, right? It's actually more at this point. It's like 34%, but still, right? They own a third of all U.S. MBS product, which is mortgage-backed securities, right? And literally what they're doing is they're standing there just buying up motherfucking houses, right? Because of the fact that they know they will go up in fucking value forever. Right? That's literally what they're doing. You know what I mean? They see what the fucking feds are doing and they're reacting to it. The BlackRock is not the issue. The issue is the Fed's motherfucking standing here pumping up the housing market. And why are they pumping up the housing market? Because they know damn well that all these local municipality governments, right, are all dependent on motherfucking fucking local tax money and property taxes, right, throughout the nation in order to run. So, like, they have to continue to have this money coming in, or the whole thing fucking caves in, right? So, you know what I mean? Like, fucking kings, like, the idea of a king, and Steel, this is the whole point. The idea of a king is going, nigga, you're to blame, right? And that responsibility causes him to force his fucking bureaucrats and the individuals under him to behave themselves because they're a reflection of him. That's the mentality, right? And that's where, like, as a mob boss, right? You don't want any of your underlings doing things that's going to cause headaches for you. You understand?
Yeah. No, I have now in my this is just my belief, but I don't think that the monarchs have ever been done away with. I think they have simply found a way to maintain their control and yet alleviate all guilt. So they've taken their power and they've hidden it away and they rule through these puppets. I'm not saying that there's a world king. Good luck proving that. Like, even if you follow the money as far back as you can, it all ends in like anonymous shell corporations and shit like that. There's no way to figure out who owns the most of the world. But like, this entire thing stinks of like some kind of top-down centralized control mechanism. So I don't think that the kings ever were overpowered. I think that they just found a better way. The powerful people just found a better way to rule. Like, when shit goes wrong in the UK, do they blame the Queen? No. Does she have actual power? I don't know. Maybe. They blame Boris Johnson. They blame their police. They blame all these underlings who are merely puppets. So again, you might think a king is the answer. I don't know if we have a king. We might.
Well, no, like, all right, what we have is a costume monarchy, right?
Exactly.
Like, Joe Biden is president in the way that the Queen of England is the fucking queen.
I was about to say.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, literally. So, like, understand, like, none of this is real. All right. Like, he's not running shit, is kind of the mentality. Right? Aircraft Sparky, like, if you just got here, bro, like, legitimate, link is in my Discord. You know what I'm saying? You want to come on, the link is in the motherfucking Discord. Like, real shit, come holler at me. You know what I mean? Like, motherfucker, like, we can have this conversation. It's like, I'm standing here saying, like, all right, look, the idea of a king, right? And this is why, like, a lot of fucking, NRX individuals, fucking neo-reactionaries go, we need a king, is because of the fact that, like, literally, like, they just want to have somebody to be able to blame when shit goes wrong. And right now, we don't have any of that. You know what I mean? That's kind of the mentality as a whole, right? And that's where shit
does seem like a good situation, but under a king, everyone but his soldiers and his nobles are serfs. Like, when the king fucks you and steals your food and your family is starving to death, you can't overpower his armies with your sharp stick and your shovels. Like, a king would actually, in my opinion, reduce our ability to resist tyranny.
Well, a good king legitimately
true.
does not.
Yes, and true. When that happens, you have a tyrant. And when the people eventually have enough, when they're starving and hungry, and they have no food, they have no money, they have nothing left, you're going to get one hell of an uprising on your hand. And there goes the head that wears the crown. A good king is somebody who recognizes that threat and keeps them just in line enough that they can't really think about it, but they're more willing to go along with what he wants them to do.
See, I have an issue with the way that politics and things are handled. Everyone keeps trying to fix things, and they just keep making it worse. The world was bad when I was born in 1990, and it's worse now. And it's worse because people keep thinking that they can fix things. I would elect anyone to power under the auspice that they are not allowed to change a fucking thing. Because it's bad, yes, but it could certainly get worse. So again, I like when people say, like, I hear the argument, like, what kind of place do you want your children to live in? Do you want them to live under a just king who won't, abide all this white genocide bullshit? Or do you want them to live in the world you have now? And I say, no, I do not want my progeny to be, subsistence level serfs under a king. But that is where we're heading, towards an entire generation and one day an entire population of renters who own nothing, but we are happy, or at least that's what they tell us.
We don't own shit now.
No, we don't, but we could certainly own less.
No, but we don't own shit now. You own nothing now is the issue. The best you can own is a vehicle. You can't own land in America. There is no ownership of land in America.
Well, my issue with owning things is to say that you own it. When you die, you can't take it with you. Like, I care about my freedom. And I don't believe that I will have any more freedom under a king. I don't believe that I will have any greater ability to pursue what makes me happy under a king. Like the world is messed up because there is far too much power in the hands of far too few people. Like I agree with your idea that we should.
No. Yo, look, I would kill for a fucking, like, legitimately, if there was fucking power in the hands of a few right now, I would kill for that 100%. I would kill to have the power in the hands of a few right now, because then, you know what I'm saying, we could go like, yo, they're the problem, right? But the power isn't in the hands of the few. The power's in the hands of a bunch, right? This is an oligarchy. It's not a motherfucking aristocracy. It's not a fucking monarchy, right? It's not a goddamn fucking like democracy. This is a fucking oligarchy, right? And that's why, like, we're having such a hard time motherfucking snake in general.
Exactly. You can't find the head. The power is in the hands of many, and they are ruled by a smaller number of people, and a smaller number of people. You can't prove it. Like, there's no way to, again, you can't cut the head off the snake if you can't find it. And again, I would love the idea of some kind of open world ruler, but again, first of all, how do we get there? And second of all, if someone controls everything, why would they be so stupid as to show their face?
Well, therein lies why people want a king, because then they know which head to cut off if things are going horribly. It's the one that wears the crown. We don't have a crown, and because of that, it's hard to find the head, which is why people say they want it. It's not necessarily that they may want a king. They want somebody who is visibly accountable.
I would like that too, but how do we get there?
The only way to fix any of this, like 100%, is a king right now. That's the only way to fix this, right? You need somebody to be elected as king, not as president, as king, right? You need him to be elected with, you know what I'm saying, the full acknowledgement of the people that what he's going to do is he is going to be the living constitution, and he's going to destroy the entire government and then rebuild it rebuild fucking it beside it, right? And just cut everything to pieces and restart over again. That is the only way that any of this works. Like 100%.
Agree, but the thing is, do you know who would get the majority of votes if we were electing a king? Donald Trump. Probably. And if you think he's the solution, I voted for him. He's definitely better than Joe Biden, but he's a facade. He's involved with the same people.
I agree with you, right? So I'm not saying that. Look. We're not ready yet. We're not there yet. It's not time.
No, we're not.
It's close to being time.
But we're getting less ready over time rather than more ready.
No,
we're getting dumber and less informed over time.
No, we're getting way more ready over time. 100%. Like, we are getting 100% more ready over time. Like, legitimately, right? Like, you have to understand that people have to suffer in order for, like, anything to get fixed. And, like, the more people suffer, the better things get for, like, or the more chances we're going to have to be able to fix shit. And people are suffering. Like, real shit. Like, yo, it's like that fucking Pirates of the Caribbean joint. Like, you got to wait for the pirates to sing for, like, shit to fucking work. That's where we are. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers, yo, ho, all together now. Right? You got to wait for that. You know what I mean? That time is coming. You know what I mean?
Well, the older people are suffering, but the young people who have been born into this, they're too busy being entertained by their bread and circuses. They've got the metaverse.
No, hang on, man. Yeah, look, hang on. I gotta deal with this. Right? I gotta deal with this. All right. Legitimately, seriously, dude. Like, you know you're wrong about this. Like 100%. Like, you understand that Henry Kissinger legitimately is a neoliberal, and Donald Trump was there to kill what he built. Shut the fuck up. Jesus Christ, man. Listen, like, yo, why are people like this? I don't understand. Like, legitimately, like, bro, like, no. Like, yo, just, man, listen. Like, yo, y'all don't understand stuff. Like, man, look. Like, you understand that Henry Kissinger literally built the neoliberal order. Built it from brick by himself. Right? Like, he was the motherfucker who stood there and opened Asia up to the fucking neoliberal world order. Why? Why is it that you would say that Donald Trump, the guy who was killing Asia, the guy who was going to bang out China, the guy who recognized Taiwan as a country, literally, you're going to say he did what Henry Kissinger? What fuck is wrong with you? Like, yo.
I call Donald Trump conservative catnip. Like, The red flag laws happened under Donald Trump. The vaccine mandates were the groundwork for that was laid under Donald Trump. Like what? Okay, what has he actually done for us? Like he says the right things, but he didn't improve our lives in any way. He put in place a bunch of policies that had they stayed
Do you know
in
how
place,
many? Do you know how many
would have-
jobs came back to the states because of Trump? Do you have any idea? Like right now, there are 10, count them, 10 steel mills being built in America. There's 14 copper mills. That's because of Trump. Fuck out of here with your shit, dude. Come on now. With the shit that matters to us, he helped. God damn
okay,
it.
Listen. I know I'm putting together a list right now of people I know who have been. I'm not going to turn this into a conspiracy fest, but like Donald Trump was asked recently, like, how do you feel about the vaccine mandates? He's like,
Yeah,
well, if I
I
was
know.
president, it wouldn't even be an issue because they trust me.
Yes.
Like I don't believe that he is on my side. I don't
think
believe
he
that.
completely is on your side. Like, yo, he literally did Operation Warp Speed to build a vaccine.
And that vaccine is helping us so much. Like
It's-
when
yo,
Donald
it's-
Trump
again,
put in
like, yo,
place the
he-
vaccine,
yo,
all the
look,
liberals
seriously,
said, no,
if
I
he was
won't take it.
If he was president, they would all come out and stand here and be bitching about all the individuals dying if he was president. I get it.
I believe they
I get
would.
it completely. But because Biden's president, right, and it got rolled out under him, legitimately, like, yo, now everything's good. You know what I mean? And he's taking credit for it. But like, understand, yo, Donald Trump was the one who started it. You know what I mean? And like, yo, I'll be real.
mean,
I
he
don't
was,
think
yeah.
the way you do. I don't think this shit's here to, like, you know what I mean, put fucking nanobots in your motherfucking joint and turn everybody into meth zombies and shit. You know what I mean? Like, yo, that is not, and I have never said anything of the fucking sort. I don't think that the vaccine is just there to kill people because the vast majority of motherfuckers, like, they give it to, it's just normal. Yes,
yeah, that
does it-
was
is it
all.
something-
That was
Yeah,
all
go ahead.
satire, wasn't it, Tom?
100%.
What about the nanobots? No, I don't think that it's about nanobots. I don't think so, but I know many people who've taken it, and many of them are dead. And those who aren't, a lot of them are getting very sick. And it's going to get a hell of a lot worse before it gets any better.
Sorry, it
Right?
was,
I mean,
job
like,
won't help you if
legitimately,
you're
like, yo,
dead.
is it good for kids? No, of course
No.
not.
no.
Right, yo, because kids don't need it. And like, yo, now that Omicron's out, like, I'll be honest, there's no reason like go out and do any of the things, right? Because like, yo, it's better at this point. And they're fucking coming out with this information.
Well, on
But
the
as a
subject of
whole-
kids, Pinoid, I don't know how old you are. Aren't you in your 40s, right?
38. I'm 38.
Okay. Well, okay. So you're far from a kid. Are you taking it? Do you think that you need it? Do you trust it?
No, I'm not taking it.
Well, okay. So again, like jobs are good. Jobs are all well and good, but they don't mean much if you're dead. And the idea that the entirety of all the media is controlled by the Democrats, and that Donald Trump did everything that he could, and we're on the losing side, that fucks us anyway.
Well,
Like, okay, Donald Trump was in president for 4 years. Did he clear out the Federal Reserve? No. Did he clear these fuckers
the
out
Federal
of the media?
Reserve is
No.
not a problem. The Federal Reserve is a fucking, it's a goddamn.
I'm not saying it is a problem, but in his pre-presidential speeches, he's like, we need to audit the Federal Reserve. He promised a whole lot of things that didn't happen.
Yeah, I know, because he's not really president. He's not president the way FDR was president. Like, yo, he's not really in power. You know what I mean? Like, yo, he did what the fuck it is he could do. And like, that's just like, he told them, bring the troops home from fucking Afghanistan and fucking the Middle East. What they do? Oh yeah, we did that already. And then they didn't do it. Like, yo, again, he wasn't the fucking charge as a whole. And like, yo, like somebody in here fucking said some shit in my fucking chat, said some shit about how like he piecemealed out our fucking military. We don't need this giant military. We don't need it. It's unnecessary to fucking
I completely agree with that. We don't need it.
Yo, we don't need the amount of fucking firepower we have. You know why? Because like all we really should be able to defend is fucking South America, Canada, and Mexico. Everybody else can eat a dick.
My issue with the military-industrial complex is similar to my issue with feminism. There might have, and I'm just going to say might have been a use for it originally.
Might have. There
Yeah,
was a
might
use
have.
for that. That use is done and gone. The Cold
Exactly,
War
but once
is
something
over.
starts to make money, it becomes self-sustaining. The military-industrial complex, once it might have been started for a reason, and I'm just going to say might have again. But
Was.
now
There
that
is no might. There was a reason. The reason is over and done now.
well, okay, there's claimed to be a reason in history.
There is
books.
not a claim. It is a legitimate thing.
Okay, my point is it is now self-sustaining. It will
There we go.
spend. It will create reasons for it to get the money the same way that feminism keeps creating fake oppression.
Yo, Law and Order, yo, and here's like somebody fucking in my chat. I forget who it is. Law and Order fucking was a Henry Kissinger thing. No, it wasn't. That was a Barry Goldwater thing. Like, yo, I literally just motherfucking, like, I literally just looked that up. Yeah, I came from Barry Goldwater. That did not come from motherfucking Henry Kissinger, but it was his day. You know what I'm saying? Like, gave away our military now that we have a small military. Yo,
All right, so I have a question.
Don't need all this military shit. And he didn't give it away. He just didn't bring shit home, right? And it wasn't even his fucking choice. This was the goddamn Pentagon doing this. Like, yo, the Pentagon is its own monster and a beast that needs fucking dealt with.
So, but when you said that Donald Trump was not a president the same way that FDR was, like, if you were to watch mainstream news, they say, like, you know, Biden is in charge. Everything is Biden's fault. And they say he's doing a bang up job. And when Trump was in charge, they said everything is his fault. It's all his choice. And he is fucking everything up. Like, how, I was not alive when FDR was president, but how do I know that the same facade, like, because the president is he's just a puppet, just a placeholder. I'm not saying that Donald Trump is a puppet. He might have a mind of his own. I hope so. I really hope that I'm wrong. But how do you know that back then FDR had any more power than the president does now? Again,
two things. First off, the media did not have the monopoly back in FDR's day like it does today. The other reason, FDR was also a president of the people like Trump. You know how Trump cut out the middleman with his Twitter account? FDR had his own radio show, and radio was big back in the day. He would always come on at night and address the nation, person to nation. He didn't have a middleman to speak for him.
Well, yes, but you have the issue. If Biden had a Twitter, it would be constantly flooded with trolls. They had to literally remove the dislike and like buttons on his presidential addresses on YouTube because he was getting ratioed into the dirt.
Shows you how controlled Biden is. Nobody could control FDR like that. You couldn't do that with him.
Yo, yeah, Lavish Patch Kid fucking got it right. FDR, Mussolini, and Hitler had the same policies at the same motherfucking time. Right, yo, legitimately. Right, yo. Motherfuckers really have no idea. Like, yo, FDR was a fucking, he was a king in America when it really came down to it. He had a rubber stamp Congress. He had 4 fucking terms. He grew the government to the like point of, I couldn't even describe. I think it was something like fucking 30 or 40 times the size it was before he started after he left. Right. He created whole new fucking government agencies right after he fucking while he was destroying the ones that were already there. Like, yo, FDR was in power. He was in charge of shit, legitimately. Like, yo, that motherfucker was literally in power.
There was a reason he got 4 terms, and he is the reason we have term limits for president today.
He won every state.
Okay, so is there how many smear campaigns were started against FDR? How many people actually stood up to say this guy is going to fuck us over in the end because he's making the federal government far too bloated and far too impossible to overcome?
There was no media conglomerate back then. You also have to remember this was the time of the Great Depression.
No, I'm
Nobody
not talking
had
about a
jobs.
media conglomerate. Like, how many independent media sources? How many independent newspapers?
None. They were too busy trying to survive. Again, Great Depression.
So we have a media that it might not be monolithic, but their ideas and their opinions are.
Yeah. Yo, look, listen. All right. What you have to understand is the people who were in the media back then are the same people who are in the media now, right? And the same aristocrats back then, you know what I'm saying, that would have been bitching about FDR or would have been like fucking thinking like FDRs, you know what I mean, not leftist enough, are the same people now, right? Like you would have found them in the same places. You would have found them in places like San Francisco and fucking LA and motherfucking New York in the brownstones, right? And motherfucking down in the village and shit. These people have always fucking been the same fucking people and they've always existed. This is what you have to understand. Like legitimately, shit ain't changed. It was cosmopolitan to be a communist back then. It was a normal thing. Like
It's a normal thing right
I don't know
now,
what to
though.
tell you. Yo, it's always been that way.
I agree. I'm agreeing with you. Listen, I feel like we're quibbling over details here. Like everything important, I agree on, but it's the details that we're getting hung up on. Okay,
Devil's in them.
Yo, my nigga Mike's in the chat. What up, my brother? Right? Like, yeah, like legitimately, like, yo, you have to understand that, like, all this shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, all this shit we're talking about, like, especially with like Trump, like, and by the way, my man wanted to hear me say Trump's a fucking liberal Democrat. 100%. Like, yo, he's a liberal Democrat from the fucking 80s and shit. Like, legitimately, right?
Legitimately,
like,
he is. If
he was a New York Democrat, if I believe.
Oh yeah. The only reason he ran on a Republican ticket is because he knew he couldn't beat Hillary Clinton in the primaries.
No,
there was no way in hell he was going to win the Democratic ticket against their chosen woman president.
No, like
Hillary Clinton is a duffel bag full of venomous cobras that some idiot spray painted makeup on. She's not human, as far as I'm concerned. But
you're not wrong. You're
neither
not
here
wrong,
nor
right?
there. No.
But like, yo, so Donald Trump literally, like, his policies that he had right now, right, that he ran on and that he fucking governed with, were Reform Party policies. They weren't any liberal Democrat policies, right? They weren't Republican, for sure, 100%. They were not Republican. They were Ross Perot Reform Party policies, legit, and that's what a lot of people aren't understanding as a whole. Like,
well, that's the Overton window. Like the Republicans today would have been Democrats a long time ago.
He literally ran on Ross Perot's platform. Simple. It's not the Overton window. He ran on Ross Perot's platform.
Okay. Let me guess. He just had the fuck you money and charisma to actually pull it off. Because I've never heard of that guy.
Ross Perot took something like 20 or 30% of the vote back in the fucking 90s.
Look, there was a couple of big things that destroyed my trust for him. I was on the Trump train right up until the election happened, and before then there were a few cracks appearing. Now, about 3 years ago, there's a YouTuber who I'm just gonna he predicted this when all this COVID shit started. He started looking into the bills they were trying to pass, and he's like, okay, it looks like all these bills have a tack on of mail-in voting. He's like, that's what they're going to do. They're going to steal the election. And it happened exactly like he said. And the idea that Trump and his advisors didn't have the foresight to see this and prevent it, that stinks too much to me. The Republicans were basically muscled out of every district that mattered, and they laid down and died without a fight. That's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, he's not a good politician, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even think he's a good salesman as a whole, right?
Well, I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna invest in his hotel chain, especially not now.
Right. Yo, Justin Kuhn said, I thought you were actually saying parrot, right? Legitimately, I thought you were saying parrot. Fuck, you're saying Perot? Yeah. Like, yo, he literally ran on Perot's platforms, right? Legitimately. Right. And I mean, that's kind of the mentality. Like, yo, and he stole the Reform Party's fucking platform, and I loved him for it. Right. And literally, like, yo, he is Ron Paul's revenge. Like, all these Ron Paulinites who were out here, like, man, listen, we need to fucking roll back government, that type of shit. And Trump, you know, I'll be honest, you know what I'm saying? Like, he spent a shit ton of money on COVID, and, you know what I mean? Like, he wanted to, like, do a bunch of infrastructure spending packages and shrink the fucking size of the military. And I didn't see anything wrong with what the fuck he did. Just like when Biden said he wanted to do infrastructure spending. I'm like, I'm with it. I'm cool with that mentality too. Like, hell yes, roads, bridges, fucking these type of things. I said that on my YouTube channel, right? Because I am pro policy. I don't care about the person. I don't give a fuck about any of this shit. Like, yo, you could literally be Jeffrey Dahmer, and I will vote for you if your motherfucking ass is doing things that I like. That's my mentality. I don't get caught up in the nonsense. Like, legit.
A new summer palace for your foreman is not infrastructure.
Right. I mean, like, there's things that, you know, I mean, I didn't like that Trump did. You know what I mean? Like, those red flag laws were fucking garbage. The ban on bump stocks were fucking garbage. But I'll be honest with you, like, yo, you can clip dump, you know what I mean? Like, with whatever, and it don't really fucking matter. Those bump stocks aren't necessary as a whole. You know, it is what it is. And you can still buy automatics if you have a FFL and shit, which again, I think is bullshit too. But, you know, he wasn't in power. Like, I understand that, like, yo, presidents have a limit to what the fuck they can do. And Congress is fucking garbage. You know, I mean, it's hopelessly gridlocked in a bunch of fucking nonsense. You know, I mean, like, it is what it is. Like, that's kind of the mentality.
So now, if you were to watch liberal media today, like CNN or whatever, you're under the impression that, again, Joe Biden is a perfectly mentally sound individual, and he's here to take America back to the good old days, you know, the Obama years. You know, he's Uncle Joe. He's a good man. But if you watch conservative media, you will know that he is a doddering, old, demented, child-sniffing pedophile. Now, so either the Republican Party always tells the truth and the left is lying out their ass, or both sides are lying. It's one or the other. And I see enough lies coming out of Fox News to know that the conservative side does not always tell the truth. So we have, again, this calls into question what we are told. Are the videos of Biden sniffing children fake? No, I don't think so. They have it on camera, but we are very fast approaching the point where any kind of video evidence will not hold up in court. Like the equipment and programs required to digitally attach my face to the body of someone who's murdering someone, those are publicly available. That's all open source now. So my issue is that I don't really know what is real and what is not.
Ad hoc.
I have no idea.
Hello, yes.
Check your Discord DMs. I sent you a new video we need to watch real quick.
Okay.
Something I wanted to do anyway.
So we're done with the 57 NR one then?
Yo, it's like an hour and fucking 32 minutes, but whatever. You know what I'm saying? This is better as a whole.
Well, okay. I was a little worried by that.
You're gonna
we're getting through it.
I promise you will like this. Right? Legit. I promise you will like this shit.
What, right? Me or ad hoc?
You.
Well, dude, you sent me that book, The America, the Economic Superpower. We have the same interests. We've just drawn slightly different conclusions. I like you as a person. Goddamn, we disagree sometimes. I don't have a problem with you.
I got you. I get frustrated by the chat sometimes. That's why I don't do live streams a lot. You know what I mean? Legit.
Metal.
Anyway, we're gonna add this part.
All right.
Ready, ad hoc?
Okay, got it up. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Go ahead.
Well, look at the time. I'll try to keep this brief. After 28 years of peacock logos on much of what I own, it is my choice now to jump without a net into the great unknown, as I do for the first time in my 62 years. My biggest worry is for my country. The truth is, I'm not a liberal or a conservative. I'm an institutionalist. I believe in this place, and in my love of country, I yield to no one. But the darkness on the edge of town has spread to the main roads and highways and neighborhoods. It's now at the local bar and the bowling alley, at the school board and the grocery store. And it must be acknowledged and answered for. Grown men and women who swore an oath to our Constitution, elected by their constituents, possessing the kinds of college degrees I could only dream of, have decided to join the mob and become something they are not, while hoping we somehow forget who they were. They've decided to burn it all down with us inside. That should scare you to no end as much as it scares an aging volunteer fireman. To my coworkers, my love and thanks. And I say again, everyone I've worked with has made me better at what I do. To my family, love and thanks doesn't begin to cover it, but now I have the time to better express it. My friends know who they are. No one's been blessed with better friends. To the guests on this broadcast, as you heard the nice man say a few minutes ago,
all right,
it's
pause it up.
Pause about you. Otherwise,
Shouting at clouds just said MSNBC is safe and effective. That is fucking hilarious.
Yo, I'm telling you, we're gonna meme these motherfuckers to death. But like, yo, bro.
So I watched this video with my wife yesterday, and she's like, "This guy's full of shit." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "This is like the third time he has resigned. Like he didn't draw as much attention to it the last couple times, but she's like, he's resigned before." So she's not necessarily buying anything that he says. Like, is he right that there are people trying to destroy the country? Absolutely, but at this point, to deny it would destroy his credibility. Like I saw
no.
He
doesn't understand
credibility crisis.
No. He doesn't understand. Like, legitimately, he doesn't get it.
No,
he doesn't understand as a whole. Like, he doesn't get the fact that like we're done. Like, yo, this bullshit neoliberal order is over, right? They don't understand why. They don't see it. They don't comprehend it. They have no clue. They're fucking lost. Hear him? Did you hear him? He didn't say he said he was an institutionalist.
Mm-hmm.
The nigga literally just said he's part of the cathedral. He said, I am fucking like, this is what I'm about. When somebody tells you some shit, like, yo, when like fucking like, yo, don't not believe them. You know what I mean? Like, when a motherfucker tells you what they are, believe that. That's what the fuck they are. You know what I mean? He's an institutionalist.
So if I were to describe myself in those terms, I would say I am an ardent anti-institutionalist by definition. But that's just on a moral, philosophical level.
Elephants have no knuckles either, Mike.
What?
How does Jacob not have a wrench in my chat?
The fuck? I'm sorry, wrench? What do you mean wrench?
Jacob didn't have a fucking wrench. I had to give him a fucking wrench.
I'm sorry, what's a wrench?
Everybody gets a wrench in my chat. So everybody's blue. So like, you know, I can see all of them and YouTube don't hide them.
Yeah, on the YouTube side of things, we're just watching this from the studio. But if we were to open this video up on YouTube where it's being streamed to Steel, everybody gets a wrench.
Oh,
everyone
okay.
Gets
I stopped. I don't even. Like my wife and I, like when I met her about 4 years ago, we would watch. Like we neither of us have watched TV for about a decade because it's cancer, along with everything else. Like especially Netflix, that's cancer. Hulu is cancer. And over the course of the past 2 years, I have taken great pains to extricate YouTube from every part of my life. Like if I can find it on any other place, I'm not watching YouTube. They can kiss my ass. So I don't know a whole lot about how live streaming works on YouTube. Sorry.
Yo, Jacob, I feel where you are, man. I'm back. Like you said, we were back, bitches. Like I was banned for like a fucking week, right? Legit, right? Like
wait,
they
banned on
fucking.
YouTube?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, what did you do?
Tom doing something right.
It's like I've been banned from Facebook. Like telling me you've been banned, that's like an instant like credibility bonus. It's not a huge bonus, but I believe you more.
He didn't wait 2 minutes before mentioning the coof.
Oh,
yeah.
What you mean? You mean the fucking cold that we've got going around that people are freaking out about with like
the
incredibly non-lethal one that they're still testing for and is apparently mutated into a new variant.
Oh yeah.
Yo, look, man, I'm out here winning hearts and minds. You know what I'm saying? Legit. Like, yo, Full Metal Joker. What up, my brother? Nice to see you. Right. But like legitimately, like, yo, he's an institutionalist. Right. That fucking phrase hit me in the face. I was like, he's an institutionalist.
Sound like he was trying to distance himself from the shit he's had to say over the years.
Yo, well, first off,
I'm not part of them. I'm an institutionalist.
Yeah, I believe in the system, not the people trying to bring the system down, even though the system was, the system is what led to this.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Like, yo, he's an institutionalist, right? Like, he wants to be part of like he's part of the government. He's literally telling you right now, he's part of the government. Like, he sees himself as part of the government. He sees himself as part of the system, right? He doesn't see himself as, you know what I'm saying, like a working individual or as an individual. Like, he literally sees himself as a fucking extension of the state. And that's important to understand. That's how the media looks at themselves.
I agree. There was a Senate hearing it was either late 50s or the 60s. where they basically pulled a CIA director in front of the Senate and the Congress, and they asked them, they're like, "Is it true that the CIA has control over the mainstream media in Hollywood?" He's like, "No, no, no." And it's like, it says here that you have plants in Hollywood and in mainstream media. He's like, "No, no, they're just there for security to make sure that no one says anything that will put our nation at stake." And it's like, well, how much power do they have? He's like, well, they have power that's given to them by us, but we would never use it unless, you know, the country was at stake. But yeah, I'm like, yeah, okay, so there. If you want any more proof that our media has been controlled for a long time by the shadowy cabal that controls the CIA, there you go.
I'm like, yo, I'm an institutionalist. Like that phrase right there. Like, yo, what type of man would admit that?
One who is a constitutionalist, I guess.
No. He didn't say constitutionalist. He said institutionalist.
Sorry, I said institutionalist. Sorry, I meant to say that.
Like, yo, who would say that?
The guy sounds like somebody who's guilty and trying to separate themselves from all the shit they feel they've been forced to say, so they know that when they go back home and they're no longer protected by the giant conglomerate that is the city, and they're out there in the rural areas living the slow life.
Well, how old is this guy? Like, he's been working for them for a very long time. He has to do something to distance himself from all the things he's done.
How can you be an institutionalist and be a news anchor?
Well, they're like they're literally like actors, Tom. They're just paid to stand there in front of a screen, look pretty, and read stuff off to you that you jerk off to out of fear porn.
Well, see, the thing is, I believe they're all actors. From the politician, like Hollywood is of course actors, but you know, most of the mainstream science personalities are actors. The news is all actors. They're all actors. They're really good at this. Some of them are really bad at acting, but they're still actors.
Dude, that phrase in general just fucked me up, right? Because like I have like, dude, yeah, I'm with Lavish.
I can tell you can't stop talking about it, and it's kind of funny. You're just sitting there like, I can't believe it.
Something I've been wanting to cover. Like I'm gonna cut this part of the stream up, put it up by itself, right? But like, like the news is supposed to be a check on power. How can you be a check on power if you're part of power?
I mean, that was the point of journalism and freedom of the press in the first place.
Well, I mean, that's what they told us. But
no,
I don't
know. Lavish Patch. He's talking about he's part of the U.S. Like, yo, he's part of the government. He's saying he is part of the system. He's not saying he's a corporatist, right? Like, yo, Lavish Patch, and I'll be real, like, bro, like, yo, the merchant class is, you know what I'm saying? Liberalism is, you know what I mean? The whole society is basically corporatist. So, like, that's kind of like, you know what I mean, saying that, like, water's wet, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just, you know, water's made up of hydrogen and oxygen. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, like, no. Like,
water
legit,
is
no.
wet.
Yeah, water's wet, bro. Right? Like, yo, fuck that nonsense, bro. He literally just said he is part of the fucking system. Like,
so if I throw this on the ground, does this mean I'm not part of the system? Because I'm gonna throw it on the ground. I'm an adult.
Yo, Jacob, good look for coming back here, man. It's appreciated, my brother. Right? But like, yo, real shit, like that shit. Yo, I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, bruh, I don't get it. Like, how would you say that and still maintain any type of credibility for anything the news has done?
You don't. Like, I saw a video a while ago. Someone said someone was panicking, or at least they were trying to push the idea that they're panicking. They're like, we're in the midst of a credibility crisis. No one trusts what they're told anymore. And I'm like, duh. You've lied for so many fucking years. Only an idiot would trust what you tell them.
It's like, do you watch your own show on the TiVo when you get home?
I know. So, like, again, I've never been big into the news. I've always watched a lot of news clips, but these people all look the same to me. I know what they say, but I don't care to memorize their names. But again, my wife is not on this show, but she's like, he's the same as all those. She's like, that guy's the same as all these other fucking news anchors. They go up there and they lie, and then when they retire, they're like, oh, I didn't mean it. I was forced to say that. This is a bad thing.
Reminds me of that collage.
I'm not sure why they're even alive to preserve their credibility that well. Like, one would think that if the system was like mechanical or like, you know, like reptile logic in nature, they would just be sacrificed. But I'm not really sure why they're doing what they're doing. But yeah.
No, it's because they're all owned by like the same 5 corporations. Reminds me of this collage that people took of like a bunch of the local channels and put them all side by side. And they were all saying the same thing in chorus in concert about threat to democracy. I swore I was looking at some kind of hypnotism fucking brainwashing thing. And I'm like, is this supposed to be a meme or is this something else entirely?
That is the most famous one they've done, but I've seen collages like that all the time. Like when the George Floyd thing happened, they did it. Everyone was saying the same thing. When they started a fucking campaign against vaping, everyone is like, oh, popcorn lung, toxoplasmosis, all this garbage. They all say the same thing, but most people don't watch
the exact thing.
Most people don't watch more than 1 or 2 news stations.
I mean, it's the exact same thing.
I've seen
word
them
for
like,
word.
They just had. Yeah, they had like advertisements that were like put up as news stories, and literally like I've seen them as like, oh, you know, do you have a birthday coming up here soon or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And like, you know, they all say the same exact words over and over and over again. Like that shit happens, right? But like this one here is just fucking fascinating to me, right? As a whole, just it's, you know, it's blatantly fucking just insane that the person who has been in media forever, right? You know what I mean? Like, you know, like this Brian Williams has been around since like the fucking 80s and shit, right?
Was that his name? Brian Williams? I didn't know.
Brian Williams, yeah. Fucking like he has sat here and said, he said, I'm an institutionalist. I believe in this place. I believe in this country, right? And like that's like saying, you know, like fucking when you read the Constitution, you know what I mean? Like fucking, you know, shall not be fucking abridged. Like, yo, like it's that simple, right? Like, dude, legitimately, he fucking sat here and said that, like, yo, he is part of the American governmental fucking structure. Like he said, I believe in these institutions. Like, bruh, like you're not allowed to be that way as a news person. You can't be rooting for the people that you're supposed to keep in check.
Do you think that within the same hour that he did that there was some newscaster on the same channel who said, we are impartial seekers of the truth, and we will always seek to give you the best information? I bet it happened. That's exactly what they do.
Like, yeah, like, yo, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, we do hard-hitting journalism here. You know, we get it first or whatever. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
Like, you can't. Right?
No, like your fucking journalism is as hard hitting as like a 3-year-old girl with pom poms taking a swing at your leg. Like, no, it's also blunted. It's also fucking fake and gay, for Christ's sake.
Yo, it's just I don't like, man, that one there, like, yo, legitimately, if motherfuckers don't believe in the cathedral after that, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? As a whole, like, it just, if you're still watching the news, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're still like believing what these fucking people tell you, I don't know what to do at that point. You know what I mean? Like, after some shit like that, like, fuck out of here. Like, yo, man, listen, the government just a show, and like, yo, Lavish Patch, like, the media is literally just a show. Like, bruh, like, I've never seen them just come out and flat say it like that, ever. I've never seen them come out and just go, yeah, we are the government. Like, I've seen them bring on CIA and FBI and try to argue for their points. And, you know, I mean, that's whatever. You know, I mean, like, that's them. Like, I understand completely, like, yo, they're owned. And I get it that they're part of the government, but I've never heard them just admit it. Like, just on Front Street go, like, yeah, we're part of the government. We're part of the structure of this fucking country. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, what do you say to some motherfuckers like that?
It feels weird to be vindicated. Like that, there are things I've suspected for many years, but to just hear it outright, if not admitted by the people who are responsible for it, but to hear it admitted by people who. Is there a fucking dog attack going on next door? I might have to go check on my neighbors. Anyway, but yeah, I'm getting real tired of being right. Honestly, I wish I was wrong more often.
Like it's fucking crazy, right?
It is.
You know what I mean? Like, yo, bro, like him to
There's
just
the
come
fucking
out,
proof.
fucking say it.
Like we have proof that the news is co-opted by the government. We have proof that the president is nothing but a puppet to corporate interests and shadowy power groups. And we know that the medical industry is garbage. Like the entire world is falling apart. This is what they meant by credibility crisis. Nobody has the public's trust. And they're scrambling, or at least they're pretending to scramble to get our faith back. Or they don't care. It's one or the two, and neither is good for us.
Yeah,
I'll be right back. I gotta check this out.
Yeah, I feel like
Okay.
what you gotta do. Like ad hoc, man. Like, bro.
Hello,
like,
yes.
Tell me that's not fucking insane though.
What is insane? That everything is all kind of wrapped up in one big decentralized church? I mean, it's practically a religion at this point. Yes, it's fucking crazy. I mean,
Like,
I find
I'm not the only one.
what I find really weird is this kind of thing where they seem to be hastening the decline. Like, do they really want this whole thing to come crumbling down? Because we know the New World Order is kind of what they're building to. They're trying to build up a world where they're on top and they're the new aristocracy. And, you know, we're nothing. Or do they want to keep what they have going? Because what they have going, it's a damn good ride from where they're sitting.
All right, listen, my neighbor's not home and his dog is inside. He's going fucking nuts. I'm going to do a walk around because something might be going
go do what
on.
you got to do. I'm going to end
Cool.
this bitch here in like 5 minutes
Yeah,
anyway.
you
know what I mean?
You take care of business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Swear
I
to
mean,
God, if
it's
you're
just-
breaking into my neighbor's house, I'm going to fucking shoot your dumb ass.
Like, I'm not in West Virginia. Right. Anyway, right. Like, you know, I mean, like, I get what you're saying about like, it's a good ride for them. Right. But like on the same point, it's just I think what's going on is that they're trying to get motherfuckers to back the government as a whole, right? And that's really what the news has been trying to do for the past, you know, fucking, I don't know.
I would say since 2008, when they were trying to get everybody on board with the Obama administration. Hey, we have the first black president. Look how forward and progressive we are. And everyone kind of stared at it for the moment and then judged his presidency. And we're like, did we really let this happen? And then, of course, there are the zealots that kind of came in and be like, oh, no, that, you know, you can't say anything bad about it because it's holy. I'm sitting here like, bitch, I will fucking criticize whatever the hell I damn well please. I will dokie my dokie as much as I dokie damn well please.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. You know what I mean? Like fucking, yo, it's strange to me as a whole. Like that one there, well, I was like, wow, like just openly admitting it. You know what I mean? That's
You still can't get over that fact. I think you just need to make a separate video on that alone.
That's what I'm doing right now. I'm making a video at the moment on this. All right. That's what we're doing. Right. Just, I don't like, cause it's so unexpected. You know what I'm saying?
Unexpected.
Right?
Blep is unexpected.
It's unexpected of these motherfuckers to stand here and just go, you know, like, yeah, man, you know what I mean? Like, you got to remember, we're part of the corporate structure. We're part of the fucking governmental structure. We're part of America. Right. And like, it's just when you're standing here and you're going like, wow, like, bruh, like I would have never guessed that you would have just fucking owned that for the moment. It's like, yeah, it's like a broad admitting she cheated on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, that's so rare to hear. You know, it's a fucking weird thing. Yeah, it's a weird flex. It really is. It's a strange thing because, like, I'm just in my brain. I have no idea. You know what I mean? Like, what to say about this? Because, like, we knew it, but like, even once you once you hear it, it breaks your brain where you go, man, I don't know what to make of this. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like. Nah, you know what I feel like? Yo, I feel like that Cal Naughton Jr. in fucking Talladega Nights, right? Where like Ricky Bobby apologizes to him, right? And he just goes, man, listen, I don't know what the fuck your play is, right? So I'm just gonna keep acting tough until I figure it out, right? And then he's driving around. He's like, there's a problem. My brain is a pretzel. There's a pretzel in my brain right now, right?
Unexpected blep is unexpected.
What the fuck is this? I can't see it, nigga. Like I don't know what to do with my hands right now, right? Like I'm just, you know what I mean? Like shake and bake, nigga. You know what I mean? That's my mentality at the moment. I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like, yo, why would you, like, yo, if I slept with your wife, you know what I'm saying? Why would you?
The fuck are you doing sleeping with my wife in the first place? Them's fighting words, boy. Come over here.
Did you not see Talladega Nights?
I did see Talladega Nights. Yes, I know what you're referencing. It's fucking hilarious.
I didn't get red pilled. You know what I mean? But it's like, bro, like
I'm on fire. I'm on fire. You're not on fire, Ricky Bobby. I'm on fire. Help me, Jesus. Help me, anybody. Help me, baby. Jesus, help me, Tom Cruise.
I saved my friend from the invisible fire, right?
Huh. I don't know. Both doors are locked. I can't see any disturbance outside. Maybe the dog's just going nuts in there.
Probably hear something you can't, and that's what's setting them off.
Maybe he saw a squirrel on the fucking.
Well, no, but the dog is in the kennel in the house. They got like a big Great Dane. And it's a very like tame dog, but they have an issue with barking sometimes. My cat was like fucking around outside, but the dog is inside. Like the cat is pretty silent, so I don't know. I did a walk around, so I have done my thing. I see anyone
like
out there,
Lavage Patch, like I feel like Lavage Patch. I feel where you're at, right? I do. I feel you, my nigga, right? I get your mentality, but for me, you know what I mean. Like, this is something we got to watch. You know, what I mean, when we start hearing the word institutionalist thrown around, you know, maybe, you know, what I mean, that'll be a thing. Maybe it'll be a new meme on the fucking news. I don't know, but it's just, I don't like. Why would you admit that? You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's like the news admitting, like, yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? Like a CIA motherfucking pays us to run stories. You'd be like, oh, wait, what? You're admitting that now? Like, and then like the weird thing is nobody else like looked at this the same way I did and went, the fuck did this nigga just say? You know what I mean? Like, why isn't everybody going like, yo, why did you say this? You know what I mean?
Because people don't listen. Like the idea, like when most people watch, like you can look around on Twitter, you can watch news, and you'll be led to believe that most people are bumbling morons. I've yet to meet one person on the street who doesn't suspect some serious fuckery in terms of the election, coronavirus, everything. Like people are asking questions, but the people who are asking questions, like the revolution will not be televised. Like the people who question stuff, their voices aren't being amplified. It's only the institutionalists who are even allowed to speak. So many people are asking questions, I believe, or at least I hope, but you'll never hear about it on mainstream stuff because they're institutionalists.
Well, they are asking questions, and the number is rising up. The thing is, however, is that the media is spinning it in a way that makes those who ask questions terrorists. I mean, if you look at what's going on right now, especially in regards to CRT in schools, you've got a lot of parents, and COVID kind of helped along this, that we had the parents, for once, actively looking over their kids' shoulders and seeing what the kids were learning. They took one look at this CRT stuff, and they said, no. So they went to the school boards, they started making a racket, and now you've got the news media cycle calling them terrorists. I mean, there's even some stories out there where they called in the sheriff's department, and the school board ran like cowards and had the sheriff's department come in and disperse the group.
Yeah, man, I know about all this stuff, right? Like, I get that, right? I like that's normal. Like, I know what the news does, right? But like just to watch them admit it blatantly on air in like a speech like this, right? Real shit. My brain goes like, you know damn well we're going to use this against you, right? You know damn well that we're going to take this and go like, yo, we can't trust you. You're an institutionalist. You're never gonna hold these assholes' feet to the flames. Right. So therefore, like you have just broken the entire agreement we had with you. Why would you do that? Right? Like that nigga Brian Williams is dumb too. Like I know he's fucking retarded, like 100%, right? Like I know he's stupid in general. Like that guy, like he tried to pretend like he was getting shot at in fucking Baghdad or whatever it was, and then to find out like he was literally in like a hotel drinking a fucking martini drink while he was giving them all fucking the report or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, we all like we heard about what he did, and he got caught for that once. Like I know he's dumb, but it's just I don't know. Yo, I don't fucking know. Anyway, yo, look, man, this has been 2.5 hours. I'm gonna shut this bitch down. I'm gonna go and cut this last piece of this motherfucking video up so that, like, yo, I can release it, and then like I can feel, you know, what I mean, vindicated about like everything I've ever said on my fucking YouTube channel, right?
Unexpected blip is unexpected.
Yeah, like man, listen, I didn't know that like this week while my YouTube channel was struck. That's maybe that's why they struck it, because they knew that I would be doing my victory dance.
Yeah, they couldn't show the gorilla doing the crab dance in victory. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, like it is what it. Anyway, yo, look, man, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Thank you, Steele. Thank you, Ad Hoc, man. I love y'all. It's appreciated coming over, helping out. You know what I mean? Thank you, everybody, for coming out, watching, and supporting the channel, even though, like, I be catching strikes and YouTube be trying to, like, fuck me up. Y'all always here to fucking, you know what I mean, pull me back through. It is what it is. I'm going to holla at y'all. Peace be like one motherfuckers later.